An entitled jerk demands that I turn off my music in my own backyard, as he claims that as a Christian, it's godless and he doesn't want to listen to it. And honestly, after he said this, I was so blown away. So much so that I decided to fight back, stand up for myself, and put him in his place. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I grew up in the 80s listening to post-punk, new wave, goth, new romantics, all the alternative bands from the UK, the United States, and Canada. A lot of it is in minor key, heavy on the bass and drums, wailing synths, crusty, distorted guitars. I think you get the picture. Today on Sunday at around 10 o'clock in the morning, I went out to the backyard with my Bluetooth speaker, a book, and a coffee to enjoy a beautiful spring morning. I placed my speaker on the table next to me, I queued up my favorite playlist, I settled in, and I started to read. My next door neighbors, with whom I have a very friendly and positive relationship, hired a contractor to replace their gutters. This contractor, by the way, is apparently a family friend, as he arrived on Friday and stayed for the weekend. They had a couple of nice evenings in the backyard, grilling up steaks and ribs, having drinks, and swimming. I should also mention that they are evangelical Christians only because it is relevant to what happened next. And I just want to say I have nothing against them. I myself am Catholic and I fully respect other religious beliefs. My neighbors left early to attend their regular Sunday church service, leaving the contractor, his wife/assistant, and teenage daughter to finish the work on the gutters. And as it happened, they were working just over the fence from me, maybe 10 meters away. My speaker, which is not particularly loud, as it was right next to my head, began playing a song by The Cure. And the song title is The Walk, and trust me, if you know, then you definitely know. Right then, I unexpectedly heard a voice. "Excuse me?" I then looked up over the fence to see a man looking at me. I say to him, "Oh, hey, how are you? Great job on the gutter." He said to me, "Yeah, thanks. Listen, can you turn that music off?" I said to him, "Oh, what? I didn't think it was very loud. I'm sorry." And when he said that, I really was taken aback. But then he said something that really just kind of blew my mind. He said, "No, it's not the music. We don't appreciate that godless music. It's all about death and violence." And when he said this, I was really speechless. I looked at him just completely stunned for another moment. The song was still playing, heading into the final chords. He then said to me, "Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. That music doesn't go with my Christian beliefs, and I don't want to hear it or my daughter listening to it." Even though, fun fact, neither his wife nor his daughter were anywhere nearby. I looked at him and I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm in my yard listening to my music. There's no rule against that unless it's after 11 o'clock p.m. I then said to him, "I'm sorry, but if you don't like it, then that's not my problem." The song Life During Wartime started playing, which was as poppy and danceable of a tune that could ever come out of the 80s. He then said to me, "It is Sunday, and like I said, it is seriously against my Christian beliefs to listen to that music." I responded back by saying, "Well, again, I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's my business what I do in my yard. If you don't like it, put earplugs in or something." He then snapped at me and said, "You're not being very Christian right now. I shouldn't have to listen to it, especially on Sunday." He then quoted something from the Bible about the wicked and God making them cry and gnash their teeth. I looked at him for a long moment and then I just shook my head. I said to him, "Whatever happened to honor the Sabbath and keep it holy? Should you not be working today?" He grew visibly angry at this and yelled something about the Lord's wrath. I said to him, "Look, this is ridiculous. If you don't want to hear it, go work on the other side of the house or put in earplugs or something. I'm trying to enjoy my book." I then turned away at this point and left him standing there, presumably glaring at me over the fence. I was secretly a little worried that he would throw a tool at me or something, but I kept my profile to him and I waited him out. Finally, he snarled and just walked away. I heard the ladder clanking as he took it down and went to the other side of the house out of earshot. He worked for the rest of the morning, and when I returned from my afternoon walk around 2 o'clock p.m., his truck and trailer were gone. I haven't heard from my neighbors and I don't intend to ever bring it up with them. But regardless, he did a great job on the gutters, even though he was trying to be controlling in a really weird way. Dude, I am a big fan of the original poster in this one. Good for you. I don't care what someone says. If you're on your own property and you're not making any kind of noise that's like unreasonable, then guess what? They have no say over what you can and can't do. And this guy's such a massive hypocrite because guess what? Absolutely, he should not be working on Sunday. If he really was this righteous Christian that he wanted to be, then he wouldn't be working on Sunday. Like, this guy's a complete clown. So seriously, good for you for standing up for yourself and not letting this weirdo control what you can and can't do. Especially the fact that he was trying to force his religion on you, which I think is incredibly messed up. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. I've been lying to my friends about being broke just to avoid expensive hangouts, and honestly, it's the best decision I ever made. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this whole thing started last November when my transmission died on Highway 85 during morning rush hour, with the car being towed and being hit with repairs. Overall, this cost me $2,847. And suddenly, I was genuinely genuinely tight for money for the first time since college. But luckily, I won about $3,000 gambling, so I just handled it that way. When my coworker invited our usual group to that new steakhouse downtown, you know, the one where appetizers start at $18, I had to pass and say that I was just completely broke. My emergency fund recovered by February, but I kept using the broke excuse because I realized something weird. I was actually much happier. No more awkward bill splits or feeling obligated to hit up expensive bars just because it's somebody's birthday. Instead, I've been spending my money on stuff that actually gives me a rush. Like last weekend, I drove to this place about an hour away where they have these vintage arcade machines and you can play for hours on $20. It felt more alive than any overpriced dinner I've ever sat through. Now, my friends figured out that I'm not actually struggling anymore, but they've also stopped pressuring me about the group dinners. It turns out being the broke friend gave me permission to be picky about how I spend both my time and my money. I know it's dishonest, and sometimes I feel guilty when my girlfriend mentions how she misses having me at dinner, but honestly, I sleep better knowing that my money goes towards things that actually excite me instead of social obligations that drain me. Okay, honestly, I kind of see where you're coming from, especially with like the trend of people being like, oh yeah, let's go to this really expensive steakhouse. Like, dude, I can't afford that. That's way too much money. Like, I could understand like once a month, maybe at most, but to be expected to do that possibly multiple times a week, like that would be really obnoxious. So you know what? If this makes you happy, then by all means go for it. I don't think you're the jerk for doing that, and honestly, it sounds like it worked out in the end. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law that he needs to book a hotel when he and my sister were staying at my house? Because after my brother-in-law has been hogging my bathroom nonstop, I'm honestly at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, my sister and her husband live across the country and decided that they wanted to come and visit. I live in a 2-bed, 1-bath, and I set up a bed in my home office because they wanted to stay at my house. And at this point, they had been here for 4 days. The bathroom has been a big problem. He spends hours in there. After the first day, I talked to my sister about it, and she says he has a condition where he needs the bathroom a lot, so I just let it rest. But on day 3, it was even worse. There was a time where I had to excuse myself to go to the store so that I could use the bathroom twice because he wouldn't leave. The last day, I woke up at 4 in the morning and I had to use the bathroom very badly. I knocked on the door and he said that he would be out in a minute. I told him I really had to go, but it literally took him an hour to get out. The nearby store wasn't open at that time, and I had to do something I am not happy I had to do because I couldn't wait. The next morning, I then told him he needs to get a hotel. I can't be blocked from using the bathroom in my own home because he takes it hostage. I get that he has a condition, but so do I. And I make sure that I have my own bathroom when I travel so I don't get in the way of other people needing the bathroom. My sister and her brother-in-law were very upset and called me ableist, but I told them what I had to do last night because he was in the bathroom for so long, and they said I could have held it. I told them they need to leave and find a hotel or stay with other family because he just cannot stay here anymore. So am I the jerk for telling my sister and brother-in-law this, or am I justified in my reaction? Because right now I'm still very frustrated. Okay, I'm sorry, but anyone who's going to the bathroom for over an hour has probably finished doing their business after like maybe 20 minutes and are then just sitting on their phone doing nothing but like scrolling TikTok or something like that. Like seriously, what's going on right now? This is crazy. Like if they really are using that much time because of a condition, then a hotel really would be the best case for anybody. And I think they would agree if that was the case. But in my opinion, it just seems like this guy is just, I don't know, doing whatever in the bathroom, and you can use your imagination there. So no, you're not the jerk for saying, hey, you gotta get a hotel, because what this guy's doing, in my opinion, is very obnoxious. Am I the jerk for choosing not to compensate my friend after she said I owe her money for the emotional stress that she went through in helping me move? And I'm honestly blown away by this entitlement, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So basically, I just moved across the country from the Midwest to the East Coast, and my friend tagged along. I didn't have room in my car for myself, my 2 cats, her, and her boyfriend, so she followed in a rental car, and I was able to put some stuff in the back of it. Now, all was seemingly going pretty well, and I got to my new place all right, and I unloaded both cars. However, this morning she came to my new place with her boyfriend with 10 minutes of lead time, which was already annoying, but I didn't have anything else to do, so it was fine. However, when she got to my place, she said something along the lines of, "Oh, this is a nice apartment. By the way, you should pay me a lot of money." Now, I was super confused, so obviously I asked what she meant by that. She clarified that the trip was exceptionally stressful for her, as she was constantly anxious, exhausted, and had panic attacks. She said that it was probably the worst time of her life, and that I needed to compensate her somehow. Well, this left me pretty speechless, as we only discussed me pitching in to help over the cost of her rental car, which by the way, I paid for half. Her boyfriend then said that I needed to pay more because it wasn't just about the rental car. It was about her driving through the Midwest being visibly trans and having to go through the stress stress of finding safe bathrooms for 3 days of driving. We sat in awkward silence for about 10 minutes in my empty apartment before she randomly left my apartment without saying anything. So I kinda need to know, am I the jerk for refusing to compensate her? I don't think I should have to pay anything because I did not ask her to go. For reference, she asked me if she could tag along with her boyfriend. I already contributed for her rental and I gave her a travel itinerary weeks before we left. So it wasn't like she didn't know where we were driving through ahead of time. I just feel like her anxiety and stress simply isn't my problem. And instead, this should just be a life lesson for her not to volunteer to help someone move long distance. What should I do? No, you're not the jerk for turning her down. Screw that. There's no way that's appropriate. Are you kidding me right now? She's trying to be like, oh yeah, the stress of like moving you here is just too much. So you need to compensate me more financially or else this is just messed up. And it's like, dude, you already literally paid for the rental car. You paid half of it and that's all you agreed on. But now they're trying to shake you down for money right when you move in? Like, what are you talking about? You didn't even ask them to come along. You just said, oh yeah, here, tag along. By the way, I'll help you pay for the rental. Like, that's so stupid. Like, what are you doing? If you didn't want to help out, then why did you help out? And then after helping out, why'd you then be like, oh, I need more money, please? Like, that's not a friend. That's someone who literally is just a piece of garbage. So no, you're not the jerk here. Their feelings are their responsibility. And the fact that they're trying to monetize that is insane in my opinion. My girlfriend's toxic coworker is constantly making my girlfriend feel like garbage. But things really start to ramp up when she starts to be insufferable about her new engagement ring. So I decided to get some petty revenge by proposing to my girlfriend with an even better engagement ring, blowing this other lady's engagement ring completely out of the water. Here's how I did it. This happened years ago when my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was working a fairly physically demanding, potentially dangerous job with animals. There was another woman working with her, let's call her Karen for the sake of the story, who constantly shirked responsibilities and dumped extra work on my girlfriend, and generally made every day absolutely miserable. My girlfriend would come home tired, defeated, and not looking forward to any shift she had to work with Karen. One day, Karen came to work all smiles. She was engaged and so excited to show off the ring her fiance had gotten her. And this went on for weeks. Now, not only was she an insufferable employee, but now she was also an insufferable person, flashing her ring and talking about it non-stop. Well, here's my sweet revenge. My girlfriend and I had been together about 3 years at this point, and I was indeed planning to propose. We hadn't discussed rings at all, so I took it upon myself to pick out the ring. And I decided to pick out an engagement ring that was superior to Karen's ring in every single way. Where Karen had gold, I had platinum. If she had 1 carat diamond, I had 1.7 carats. When it comes to the color and clarity, we got it as perfect as I could possibly get it. I also chose a particular type of cut that made the diamond especially sparkly. Now, how did I know the specifications? Because I would go to work functions and listen to her go on and on to anyone who would listen. My girlfriend and I went away on a long weekend, and when she returned to work and showed everyone in the break room her ring and announced her engagement, they were all super impressed except for Karen, who stormed out of the room and started crying in the hallway. Needless to say, she never talked about her ring again and would visibly scowl whenever she saw my girlfriend's ring. Karen left that job not too long after we were engaged, and I have no idea what happened to her, nor do I even care. But when I told my girlfriend why I went just a little bit overboard with her ring, she did say that was terrible, but she laughed when she said it. I love this, man. This is one of those like really good karma stories where it's like, okay, you got some good revenge. Because you know for a fact this Karen's like one claim to fame was having this ring in everybody's face and being like, oh yeah, look at this thing. This is so nice. And it's like, dude, this is so insufferable. You're just trying to make us all feel bad. So I seriously love the fact that you got back at her in such a fun way because this clearly got under her skin when it shouldn't. This really should not have affected her at all. And the fact that it did is just so stupid in my opinion. An entitled Karen is quite literally trying to take my man from me. So I get some petty revenge by tricking her into dyeing her hair blonde. Here's how I did it. So there's this woman that I know, and she is quite frankly awful to be around, but entertaining enough to watch in small doses. She is a massive attention seeker. Drama follows her everywhere, yet she never quite realizes that she is the drama, because in her eyes, she is a creative and natural empath. She will go into a group of people having a normal old time, and suddenly everyone has enemies, relationship issues, and lives are falling apart. She comes across as a bit lonely and that she needs attention from men for her own validation. And you know what? She turned her sights on my man. He told me everything that was going on as it happened. I later heard by someone else that she was trash talking me. I know I'm making a whole post about her, but I genuinely do keep her at an arm's distance. She doesn't talk to me anywhere near enough to be forming opinions about me like this. So needless to say, I was not happy. But I also had an idea. Someone else around us recently had highlights in their hair. She has black hair and I knew her hair couldn't handle heavy bleaching and that it would grow out out weirdly without the proper maintenance on her hair. So I made such a big fuss about how hot the woman with highlights looked. I talked about how blondes just have the it factor and that it's totally a summer 2025 kind of look. I talked about how I wanted to go blonde, and I even made some of the guys agree that blondes were hot in front of her. Now this lady is impulsive, and she's attention seeking enough that I knew she would go blonde if I hyped it up enough. And you know what? That's exactly what she did. She doesn't have enough money for a proper hairdresser to do it, so she just did it at home. She did multiple rounds in the same day with box bleach, and her hair is now orange and fried. She has now turned it around and keeps asking the guys if she's still pretty, and everyone is being really nice towards her over it. But you know what? It looks terrible, and I definitely see a bob in her near future. Dude, I love this kind of revenge because you didn't get up in her face, you didn't get pissed off at her. Instead, you decided to get petty and you literally ruined her image. And I just love stuff like that because my god, it sounds like she absolutely deserved it. I mean, what kind of scumbag is she? She was literally going after someone who was already in a relationship. Like, dude, what are you doing? That's off limits. You can't do that. So yeah, this lady absolutely deserved it, and I love the way that you handled this situation. Am I the jerk for evicting my friend of 12 years from my rental unit after he literally causes $5,000 in damages? Because right now I feel like an awful friend and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I let a friend of 12 years live rent-free in my rental unit after he fell on hard times. He lost his house and car and was dealing with custody issues. I don't judge because he had always been a loyal friend. In return for the free housing, I asked him to work on some repairs at the property. I covered the bigger expenses and he agreed to handle smaller costs like paint and wood. When I visited about 6 weeks later, he had only completed one task from a 12-task list. Now, I was a little frustrated, especially since he wasn't maintaining the yard either, but I gave him grace because of his personal issues. I voiced my frustration and I let him know that he'd still have about 2 more rent-free months after finishing the list, so there's no reason to stall if that was his worry. Then last night his girlfriend came over. They had been there drinking with a friend and it ended up with my unit being completely trashed. We're talking over $5,000 in damages. The glass patio door connecting to the kitchen was shattered, fresh tile and hardwood was ruined with sage paint, holes in the drywall and light fixtures were ripped out. I mean, I was furious, but I kept calm, and I asked him how long it would take to secure the door and fix the damages, this time on his dime. Well, he said he could board the door right away, but he would need about 3 months to fix everything, plus another 3 months to finish the original list. But you know what? That was way too long for me. I no longer trust him to stay there, especially considering this wasn't the first serious argument that he'd had with his girlfriend. One time, she even tried to run him over with her car. So I told him that he'd have 3 days to leave and had to sign a notarized letter confirming the notice and the damages. And I did that just to try and protect myself. And when I spoke to him, he didn't seem upset about it, but instead just sad. I know he has nowhere to go and was couch hopping before, but this is still my property and reputation within the neighborhood. I don't want to be associated with chaos. Ever since the incident, I've arranged to install security cameras, change the locks, and update the home security system. I'm not asking him to pay for any damages since we agreed on eviction. I mean, this was the only negative experience we've had in our friendship, so I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for kicking him out. Did I go too far having him sign an eviction letter, even though I never had him sign a formal lease? What should I do? Dude, this does not sound like a good friend at all. Like, I know you're trying to be like, oh yeah, we're friends, we've been friends forever. But like, look around, dude, let's read the room for a second. This guy caused $5,000 worth of damages. You really think this guy's your friend if he's gonna be doing crap like that? Like, seriously, this is so uncalled for. This is unfair for you and your property. And I'm so glad you saw through his lies because this guy was literally gonna try and live there for 6 more months. Not just to fix the damages that they did, but also do the things that he agreed to do in the first place. It's like, dude, what's going on? This is so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk. You did the right thing by kicking him out because at this point, there really is no reason why he should stick around, as I really feel like this guy was just taking advantage of you. Am I the jerk for calling out my friend for re-gifting a present to me after she gave me a ring as a present that she literally bought for herself? Here's what happened. One of my closest friends gave me a birthday present. There were several small items, and the last thing I opened was a ring with a small citrine stone. I was immediately disappointed because I recognized this ring because my friend had bought it from a crystal shop for herself when we were on an out-of-town trip together. She didn't want it wrapped up. She wore it out of the store and she showed it to me as we left. I remember not liking it, but I still said something like, oh, that's nice. Now, I confirmed it was her ring by trying it on right away. You know, unless she was doing some kind of like best friend pair rings thing and had a matching one. But it immediately fell off my thumb, which is my biggest finger. She knows my ring size is 6 because for reference, she bought me a ring the previous year. And I know for a fact her ring size is 9. So that's when I knew that this was the ring she had bought for herself. I know I should be grateful for receiving anything at all, but I guess it was especially disappointing because I put a lot of time and thought into her presents, and her gifts really can be hit or miss. She saw it fall off my finger and then enthusiastically went into how she bought it in the city that we visited. Well, I couldn't help myself, and I replied in a quiet voice, "Well, I know, I was with you when you wore it out of the store." Her memory isn't great at times, so I'm sure that she had forgotten this fact. She immediately denied it by saying, "No, I didn't," and then changed the subject and we just didn't mention it again. I do feel the more polite thing would have been to be more gracious and just thanked her for the gift. But on the other hand, I am the type to keep things bottled up and not talk about things that bother me, and I just can't help it because this really bothered me. So am I the jerk for calling this out? Because right now I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. No, I don't think you're the jerk, especially if you're close friends, because it really seems like this could have been more heartfelt, but instead she's like giving you something that she bought for herself. Like seriously, at least get me something that you think is gonna be sentimental. Like that is super annoying to be like, "Oh yeah, here's a gift for you that I bought from the city," and then she like conveniently forgets that, "Oh yeah, you were there for that, my bad." So yeah, your friend's an idiot and they definitely should not have done that. And if I was in your shoes and I knew this friend really well, I definitely would have called them out as well. Our psycho mailman would literally pee in a bottle and then throw it at people that he didn't like, resulting in one brave kid from my neighborhood getting revenge in a way that this mailman will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so this one happened a few years ago. Our mail carrier changed and the new guy, who we will call Dave, was an absolute jerk. He would literally walk on flower beds and was really rude to people. But the real kicker was Dave would pee in a bottle, and if he was in a bad mood, that bottle would be thrown in someone's garden. And if you tell him to throw the bottle in the trash, he would throw it at you. Dave was the son of the postmaster, who we will call Bob, an older guy of the boys will be boys mindset, and best friends with the local sheriff, who we will call Steve. If you talk to Bob about his son, it would be nothing but excuses. He's a foster kid, he's had a hard life, and on and on. If you went to Steve, then he would just say, "Oh, boys will be boys," even though Dave is in his 30s. Or he would say that Postmaster Bob is dealing with it personally. Well, one day in the middle of summer, the neighborhood kids got to see Mailman Dave being his usual sunny self. It seems like Dave was mean to them too. The kids were out playing with their super soakers, and one of them had this really high-powered thing which sent the water a good 10 feet or more. And the kid who owned it, who we will call Orion, was a really good shot. It was a lovely day, the sun was out, and I'm out back putting out dinner. Suddenly, there's this blood-curdling scream from Dave, and the whole neighborhood comes running to see what happened. It turns out that Orion had loaded his super soaker with one of Dave's pee bottles and topped it off with a can of Red Bull. So now Dave was covered in this disgusting, sticky pee and sugar mess, which was starting to stink to high heaven. One of my neighbors offered to let Dave use her shower, but he ran off to another house, grabbed the hose, and turns it on himself. So now Dave is sticky, pee-soaked, and wet. He ditched everything in the street and eventually just ran off. Steve and Bob went walking the street that afternoon, and we'd all not seen anything, of course, and Bob had the bright idea of asking Orion, who told him exactly what we all thought of Dave and how he was acting, and it was done in the way only a bright-eyed 12-year-old truly can do. Bob and Steve then cornered Orion's dad. "Is this your son? Do you know what he did?" Well, without missing a beat, Orion's dad fired back, "Well, Sheriff Steve, don't you always say boys will be boys?" We never saw Dave again, but Orion's birthday party was huge that year. And honestly, all I can say is God bless that kid, because Dave absolutely deserved it. Oh my god, it blows my mind that people like Dave actually exist in the world. Like, think about it, this guy was throwing his own urine at people. That's seriously like some crazy behavior, and he absolutely should be in jail for that. But on the other end of that, I know plenty of kids who would have the bravery to step up and be like, "Oh, okay, you want to throw urine at everybody in the neighborhood? Guess what? I'm gonna do the same thing to you. Oh, and by the way, it's your own that you threw at us earlier." Like, seriously, that's so gross. So yeah, this story is great because Dave absolutely deserved to get shut down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My parents absolutely hate my boyfriend no matter what I say or do. And despite the fact that he is perfect for me, they still think he's mistreating me and that I should get away from him. And at this point, I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm 25 years old and he's 28. I have some mental health issues and I moved back home around 4 years ago. I work full time and I pay my bills, but I don't pay rent. I do have some debt, which really concerns me. Before I met him, I was almost full time watching my nephew and spending time with my parents. I had some boyfriends in between, but it just didn't pan out. Now, I love my boyfriend, who we will call Jay for the sake of the story. He truly is like finding a missing piece, but we did have an argument which resulted in a breakup and me crying. He then apologized and we agreed to part ways. 3 days later, I said no and we got back together. Since then, he has been in therapy and we've been talking and communicating a ton, and the both of us truly want to marry each other. He's in school school to work on HVAC and I'm taking another license so that I can make more money. Now, my parents hated me getting back with him, citing every reason one could think of, going as far as telling me that he's toxic and mistreating me, even though he isn't. I do sometimes drive and we do a more 50-50 relationship where he opens every door for me and cooks for me and all over really just spoils me. My mom even hated his Christmas present to me, but they were all very special and well thought out gifts. She's mad it wasn't expensive things, which I just don't care about. And I don't believe they've ever liked any of my boyfriends, to be completely honest. Easter came along and I made plans for Jay and I to go to the aquarium. Flash forward and my mom's pissed I didn't spend it at home. I stayed the night at Jay's place and I come home to be yelled at and told that they just care and that he's mistreating me and how ungodly staying the night is. But I had a great time filled with lots of laughing and learning more about Jay. We've been together about 7 months and there's been nothing toxic or manipulative going on as they tell me, but at the end of the day, I'm not paying rent, so their say goes. I feel like they don't trust me and don't want me with him, and ultimately I feel like I'm failing them. What should I do? So from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like your boyfriend's that bad at all. Based on what you've described and you've shared with everybody, he sounds like a pretty good boyfriend, so I'm kind of confused as to why your parents don't like him. In fact, it really seems like they just don't want you to date at all, which is like really annoying. Like, are you kidding me right now? The original poster is 25. You can't expect them to stay single forever and live under your roof, right? So this all sounds super weird, and hopefully this is able to get worked out in some kind of way because it does sound like you have a good relationship. And I would hate to have your parents ruin that all because they have some weird bias that they refuse to explain. My entitled psycho coworker gets a healthy taste of karma after she decides to mouth off at the wrong time, resulting in a patient slapping her right in the face. Here's what happened. Okay, many years ago, I worked as a contract nursing assistant for a hospital. One of my jobs as agency CNA was I had to manage a room called the restraint-free room. Mostly it was because I was a big, tall dude, but also because I was agency, and the other CNAs hated it, and the full-timers had their clique, and agency just wasn't in that. The reason it was called the restraint-free room is because the facility had strict rules on restraints and only used them as absolute last resort, preferring to put them all in a small room with someone watching them and redirecting them. But sometimes you'd get someone in there that just pissed off the nurses. Well, one night I got one of these guys. He did not want to wear his CPAP machine, which by the way helps him with his sleep apnea, and he probably needs it. But he hates it because it's bulky, the straps suck, and he could not toss and turn in it without waking up. That, plus being stuck in a hospital for 2 weekends, and being stove up just drove him nuts. In my training as a CNA, I was always told a patient can deny treatment and go AMA except in certain cases, like they are in danger to themselves or others, or they can't make decisions because of some legal or medical condition. Being of somewhat right mind after talking with him, he had the right to not wear the thing or have his concerns about it addressed. I did try to convince him to wear it. It is my job after all. But when he got agitated, I said he had a right to do it, and I mentioned that I'd have to chart this. Well, he agreed and we were cool. And honestly, this should have been the end of it, but trust me, it gets way worse. I chart that the patient is refusing to wear their CPAP, and a nurse is informed. Most places I had worked, it was no problem. Someone with a higher pay grade can handle it or ignore it. No need for it to be a big deal. But then a nurse practitioner, the nurse in charge, and the floor nurse I was under enter the room at like 4 in the morning and flick the lights on. And the nurse practitioner is pissed off. For those unaware of the culture of medicine, think of it like hierarchies of tribes, each with its own hierarchy and shared language. In nursing, a nurse practitioner is only rivaled by an anesthesia nurse, even outranking nurse managers, almost on par with lesser doctors, but not in the doctor tribe. And they have enormous autonomy and perks. At the absolute bottom are nursing assistants. While essential, we are expendable, and we do the dirtiest work and spend the most time with patients. She then starts berating the floor nurse, then looking in my direction. These people, meaning nursing assistants, which also means she's talking to me, are supposed to make sure the patient is wearing the CPAP. It is their job, and your job is to make sure they do this. Are you just sitting here being lazy? Now, all of this is in front of the patient, of course, along with another poor patient that just kept falling out of bed, waking him up. I then look at her and I say, "Ma'am, you are a nurse practitioner with years of experience and education. If you could show me your technique to do this, I'd be much in your debt. After all, CNA school is only a month-long school, so would you mind?" The nurse practitioner then grabs the CPAP and goes over. "Here, Mr. Whatever, you need this." And then she tries to put it on him. It was then that he smacks her straight in the face. And I think that slap could be heard all the way to the nurse's station. The nurse practitioner's glasses went flying. In a flurry of activity, code called and a squad of other CNAs and a nurse with a large dose of emergency emergency tranquilizer, all march into this room. They poke him in the butt and he's on a 5-point restraint and out of my room because, well, of course, there's no restraints in the restraint-free room. I turn to the nurse practitioner after the chaos. I say to her, if one of your RNs wrote non-compliant, you would not say they are lazy. You would respect their assessment. Why should this be different for a CNA? When I chart this, I don't do this because I want to lay out. I do it to inform the proper people while making sure my patient is safe and that I am safe. She then looked up, still probably seeing stars. She nodded and then apologized. And you know what? I never had crap from her the rest of my tenure there, and even had me fix a laptop that she had with a simple repair. So it goes to show you that not all revenge has to be malicious, and that sometimes it can be educational. Okay, as someone who's worked in the healthcare industry at some point in their life, my God, I love this story. Seriously, this is so satisfying because I've dealt with people like this and it is so obnoxious, dude. Literally, you're just trying to do your job and they freak out and try to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you. You're not doing your job. You're just sitting here being lazy. And it's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Obviously, I can't scream at you because I'll probably lose my job. So I'm going to be professional and let the patient take care of it themselves. And I know for a fact, I would have gone to the storage closet right after that or some kind of private space and laughed my butt off after she got slapped in the face. Because if this nurse practitioner is anything like some of the snobby coworkers I've dealt with, then my God, does she deserve that smack right in the jaw. So honestly, good for you for getting this revenge. Like, this really is so funny to me because this lady absolutely deserved it. And anybody who calls their coworkers lazy all because you're now forced to do your job, in my opinion, is the actual lazy person in the office and nobody else. Am I the jerk for cutting off my parents after they treated me like garbage for literally my entire childhood? Because now, after years of being no contact and after going through therapy, I reached out to my mom and she's asking me to forgive her for the way she treated me. And at this point, I'm not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to say that I kind of know the answer to this one, but there is something not sitting right with me. Let's get started. I'm the son of two emotionally immature parents. My dad was a total dictator and totally acted like it. He was violent, angry, and vindictive. And mom used me as her parent, literally reversing the roles. And the only constant growing up was instability. So loads of awful situations, locked constantly in a state of freeze and do nothing else. Fortunately, I got an education, I left the country I came from, and I made myself a new life in Norway. I'm super happy with that, and I'm now in therapy, and I've been going on for that for about 3 years now, and I'm working on all the issues I had growing up. I'm not dependent on them anymore, and that has affected our relationship. Their role has become less and less, and I haven't had a relationship with my parents for the past 4 years. In addition, our relationship got a no-contact status as I had a period of depression that made me do therapy. Now, for the past 3 years, I've been working through all the baggage they left me, and because of that, I had a tough time healing. I've been getting better and lately thought that I should tell them, but I honestly felt like they deserve an explanation. Well, my mom at least. So I sent her a long message explaining my reasons for estrangement and how I'm not mad at her, but I can't act like nothing happened, and let her use me as her emotional regulator. I told her that she and my dad have not been nice to me and have given me major issues that I've been working through these past years. Her response was basically to say, well, can't you just forgive me? Okay, I've not been nice to you, but we've lived together for 22 years. Can't you at least forgive me for that? I don't need that much from you. Can't you just send me like 3 voicemails in a year so I can feel good? I mean, she's not asking for too much, but I don't see this woman as someone who has been kind to me. She has done her best, I get it, and I have empathy for it, but I can't act like nothing has happened. I feel bad that she is so dependent on me, but I don't want a babysitter. So truly, am I the jerk for denying such a small ask of her? Because right now, I seriously am not sure what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This sounds really tricky. Like, I can't imagine going through that growing up and then being asked to, like, I don't know, pick up the pieces of a relationship that you never had. Because just my, like, basic instinct here, it doesn't seem like she's actually sorry. Like, if anything, she's just trying to be like, oh, just forgive me, it's fine, just like, don't worry about it. We've lived together for 22 years, can't you just forgive me and get over it? But it's like, lady, why don't you apologize to your son? Like, you're completely missing the point of all of this. This would have been a great opportunity for her to be like, I understand and I'm sorry for what I did. But instead, she's like, oh, just forgive me, I want voicemail so I can feel good. Like, clearly, she's just completely not changed at all, and she still expects like the same things from you. So no, you're not the jerk. I completely understand where you're coming from, because it sounds like your mom and your dad have just not grown in the slightest. My entitled in-laws refused to tell me until after the fact that my father had passed away. So I decided to get some petty revenge by stealing my dad's ashes and telling them that if they wanted it back, then they would have to apologize to me. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened last year, and honestly, it's probably the pettiest thing I've ever done. Let's get started right at the beginning. My biological dad was never really around when I was a kid. When he left, most of his side of the family went with him. The only ones who stayed in contact were my aunt and my grandfather. both of whom have since passed away. I had an okay relationship with my half-sister growing up, and that was about it. When I was 16 years old, I finally met some of my dad's family, and even then, he still didn't show up. I built a relationship with my grandmother around that time, but I didn't actually meet my dad until I was 20 years old, and even then, it was only over the phone and online. Fast forward to last year, and I was 29 years old when he passed away, and you know what? Nobody told me. My sister even drove 10 hours to visit him in the hospital while he was on life support for 2 days. Meanwhile, I found out after he died. You know, when his ex-wife, not my mom, but just some random woman, messaged me and offered her condolences. And that was how I learned that he was gone. It really hurt. I had spent most of my life wanting to meet him, and it turned out he had moved back to the area a year before he died. He had a relationship with my sister, but apparently me and our younger sister didn't make the cut. So like any reasonable person, I did a little digging. I found out which mortuary had him and gave them a call. They told me my grandmother and sister said that they had no way of contacting me, which is hilarious considering they're both on my Facebook where I'm extremely active. And my sister used to call me at least once a week before all of this. The mortuary needed a majority of his children to consent to cremation. So I called my younger sister and together we went down there and signed the new paperwork. We arranged it so that the ashes would come straight to me. They said they couldn't give me the urn that had already been purchased as it had to go to whoever paid for it. So basically my grandmother paid for an urn and was handed an empty one. And now my dad's ashes are in the back of my closet. I handed out some to my nieces and nephews, and my younger sister wanted nothing to do with him, and honestly, I don't blame her. I told my grandmother and sister they could apologize first if they ever wanted to make things right. Well, there's now been dead silence, and honestly, I have no regrets about the situation. Wow, that is one way to get revenge. Holy crap. You literally went down there with your sister and said, oh, we're stealing the remains of my father. We're taking these ashes as collateral, and if you want them back, then guess what? You have to apologize. And please, don't misunderstand. I'm not chuckling at the fact that this happened at all, but I'm more laughing at the fact that your extended family act like jerks and now they have to deal with it. Because first of all, they could have easily told you that your dad passed away even though you didn't have a good relationship with him. They could have just messaged you on Facebook and all of this would have been fine. You could have moved on and it would have been completely over and everybody's happy. But they decided to be weird, so you got a lot weirder, and I'm not gonna lie, this is way more than I would ever do in my own life. But either way, good for you because I think you sent a very clear message to these people. I recently moved back in with my parents and I'm really struggling to set any kind of boundaries with these people, as I seriously feel like my entire life is under a microscope, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 27-year-old female and I moved back in with my parents a year ago. Trust me, I would love to have my own place as that would solve all my issues, but I'm paying off all my debt I ended up in from my previous relationship. I'm in school as well while I work a full-time job that's literally 45 plus hours a week. I'm putting most of my money to paying off my debt. I still have a car, insurance, phone bill, and groceries, so I literally just can't afford my own place. Obviously, I no longer have any privacy or space anymore, and my main thing is I live in my parents' place for free. I used to have to pay rent before I moved out at 20, so I know if I give them any type of attitude, they will bring up the fact that I live there for free. I work a lot, I'm in online school, I buy my own groceries, clean up after myself and my cats, but I've been struggling to get back on a routine for the last year. Since moving back, obviously, I can't do the things I did living on my own, like cleaning when I want, having friends over, and smoking cigarettes or the herb, if you know what I mean. I can't even smoke in the backyard, I would have to leave the property. I work the same night shift I've been working for the past 6 years, and my parents are retired and they're always home. I started sleeping with earplugs so they don't usually wake me up, but it's the constantly coming into my room while I'm sleeping, waking me up to do chores or favors, always on me about my spending, as I have to buy my own groceries, but they always tell me I'm spending too much, and always having any conversation turn into a lecture because they don't like or agree with anything I do. They tell me I don't spend enough time with them, and then I do try to, but I am busy a lot. And they are always, and I mean always, going through my stuff. They're going through my mail. They are very, very opinionated. So anytime I do anything, there's always some kind of comment. For example, they hate coffee. So every time I make coffee, they come into the kitchen to tell me the smell is gross and that I shouldn't be making coffee. I know this stuff is little and I've ignored it, but my God, I swear they've gotten worse since I moved out. I've tried multiple times in several ways to kindly say, look, I just got done with a 12-hour shift. I really don't want to sit in the living room with you and watch the news or talk about how much in debt I am. I just want to sit in my room in silence. Or I'll say, I'm trying to work out and do my yoga, so can you please not stand in the doorway and stare at me? By the way, I'm not a morning person, so I usually don't even talk to them when I wake up. And I've also mentioned that I'm not a morning person, so just don't even acknowledge me. But it's always, oh, someone's being a brat today. Also, I only see my boyfriend on the weekends as he does live about about an hour away, and sleepovers are not allowed under their roof. So usually we just want to sit in my room and relax or go on a day trip, but then it's like, oh, well, we want to get to know your boyfriend, so you need to sit in the living room with us. Wait, why are you avoiding us? And every single time I get told I'm being a brat and I have an awful attitude. I make bad decisions, I'm stupid. Like at this point, I just don't know what to say to them. I mean, I barely even talk to them nowadays because I don't want the lecture, and I don't have the energy to fight. It's hard because they are nice people and I know they mean well, but it's just getting so frustrating. And at this point, I honestly do not know what to do. Okay, this all really sucks and I totally understand where you're coming from, but the one thing that lights my hair on fire is the fact that they're going through your mail. Like, dude, that's not allowed. That's so illegal. I really hope they're not opening up your mail, because that would be a serious violation of privacy. If by some weird twist of fate they are doing that, dude, I would get a P.O. box today and never look back. I would reroute all my mail to that and be like, okay, this is now my mailbox. You people cannot look at it. It also makes me wonder if you and your boyfriend can figure something out. I know that's a stretch because it sounds like money's tight, but I wonder if the two of you could live together and you could be like, okay, well, screw both of our parents. Let's go do something on our own. Because legitimately, what you're describing right now sounds like my own personal nightmare. For me, in case you don't know already, because I've probably said this a bunch of times on the channel, I am a very private person. I love my privacy, I love my own space, and having my own place to do things. So having anybody invade that in some kind of intrusive way would seriously be like, wait a second, what are you doing? Get out of my house. So I can't imagine having parents like that and being like, oh my God, they're going through my mail. They're going through my room. They're trying to make me sit in the living room so they can interrogate my boyfriend. No, I don't think so. That's not happening. And by the way, in case you're wondering, that's a completely normal response to be like, wait, no, I don't want that. What are you doing? Because they're being super intrusive and weird, and I don't blame you for being upset. So sure, I know that you're going through a lot and you got a lot of debt that you're figuring out, but hopefully some way, by some miracle, you can move out of there and be back on your own. Because your current living environment just doesn't sound fun, and I know I would hate that to the highest degree. My entitled coworker thinks that she owns and runs this entire restaurant, barking demands and orders at literally everybody around her. But after being pushed to my breaking point, I finally decided to get some revenge on her. Here's how it went down. So this was a few years ago, right after the end of the pandemic. I was working as a pastry chef and wanted to change restaurants to shake things up. I ended up in an Italian place in town that seemed like a nice enough place. I didn't try it first, and now I regret that. Now, it's important to understand the weird structure of this particular restaurant. The owner was in his 70s and barely ran anything. And for the sake of the story, we'll call him Tom. He just wanted to run his appetizer station and pay someone else to be the head chef. And that chef is my mentor, who we will call Otto. Then there was a sous chef by the name of Keith, and the front of house manager, who we will call Jamie. Jamie had been working line cook shifts in the back due to short staffing, and she felt that made her our boss, even though she had literally zero authority over the line cooks, let alone the chefs. Now, this restaurant, to put it nicely, has seen better days. Not kitchen nightmares material, but definitely going underwater due to their rapidly aging fan base. Chef Otto was brought in originally as a consultant to revamp the menu and overhaul procedures. And you know what? He did. But then Jamie nagged Tom until he slowly made Otto change it back. And here's the thing, Jamie hates change. We've done it this way for 20 years. Yeah, and now you're in the red. Clearly things need to change. After a few months, Chef Otto got fed up and moved to another restaurant 40 miles away. And unfortunately, I couldn't follow at the time because of a family situation. We remained in touch with him teaching me a lot of things just through conversations. They then brought in a new executive chef who we will call Dudley to take over. Jamie helped choose this guy, and I was wondering, well, why does she want him? Well, it's because he was a burnt out doormat that would do whatever she wanted. Sous Chef Keith and I tried desperately to convince them to stop using recipes that physically, scientifically did not work. But Jamie's complaining continued. Her famous mantra was to say, "It's fine, we've done it for so many years." And it honestly slowly was driving me mad. Jamie is not just stubborn, she's an active bully that did not like him when people told her no. Tom hasn't had passion for much, probably since the 70s, so it was easy for her to bully him and get whatever she wanted. Eventually, Keith got fed up and bounced, leaving me alone to deal with Jamie and her beaten down lackeys. Now, the important thing is that weirdly, Tom actually really liked me. He liked that I was excited about food and wanted to make everything beautiful. This meant he gave me free reign. My station was my kingdom, until the restaurant started opening 7 days a week again. Suddenly, someone else had to run my station when I wasn't there. And guess who that was? Yeah, it was Jamie. Jamie took this as her opportunity to try and push me around, even though she had been told repeatedly that she was not my boss and couldn't tell me to do jack. She would rearrange my entire very large station and prep area for the 1 day a week that she watched it, and then complain when I fixed it. And honestly, this is where I hit my breaking point. Now, it's important to know that I'm a fan of do what you've got to do to make a station work for you, especially since she's very tall with back pain. I didn't mind her setting it up how she needed for service. I just wanted her to put it back when she left. It's just basic respect. If it's not your station, put it back. This battle went on for months, with Tom trying to have a backbone with her because he didn't want me to leave. Near the end of my stay, he brought in an ACF certified master chef and his apprentice to try again to revamping the menu. The master chef, who we will call Andy, did an exquisite job of modernizing and improving procedures. Let's just say that a lot of the methods that we use for Jamie's precious recipes were ineffective at best. His apprentice, who we will call Nina, was a pastry chef who helped me revamp the entire dessert menu, and Tom gave the two of us full control. They were beautiful, easy to plate quickly, and absolutely delicious. And the only thing that was pre-made was the gelato. Well, Jamie did not like this at all. She went into absolute overdrive, complaining constantly, making her old recipes when prepping, hiding ingredients, hiding equipment, the works. One thing that seriously got on mine and Nina's nerves was that she literally wouldn't garnish the plates at all. She was just too lazy, I guess, or maybe it was another middle finger. I had a kettle soup warmer to keep hot fudge warm during service because I would go through 10 cans of that stuff every 2 days. Well, she started hiding it. She's a tall woman, like 6'2", and I'm smaller, maybe like 5'4", so naturally she would hide it on top of things. Now, because I'm not a 3-year-old, I quickly find it and get it down. All the while, she was convinced that Nina was her new best friend, even though guess what, she wasn't. Nina hated her just as much as I did, and Jamie would literally tell Nina where she was hiding things just to try and gloat. Nina would obviously turn around and tell me or just go get it herself. After all this, my final straw arrives. Tom gave me a budget to go and buy new plates and my new salads. My old salad plates were admittedly very pretty once, but they were very beat up and very old. They needed to be replaced regardless. I picked out some new plates, they arrived, and they were gorgeous. Tom likes them and even seems a little excited about something for once. I came back from my day off 2 weeks later to find all the new plates in the basement and all the ratty beat up plates they hadn't thrown out yet back on the station. And you know what? That was it. I don't know why that was my final straw, but it was. I called Chef Otto within 10 minutes of getting to work and I asked if he had a spot for me. He asked what happened and I gave him the entire rundown. He offered me more money and less responsibility so that I could focus more on learning the other kitchen roles that I had never really gotten to explore. I then put in my 2 weeks notice that day. Tom was not happy with Jamie and for once actually put his foot down with her. In fact, she wasn't allowed near me during my whole notice period, and I really think he was hoping that I would change my mind. Well, as you've been waiting, this is where my petty revenge comes into play. My final day comes and Jamie isn't there. I suddenly have a wicked idea that didn't actually hurt anything. I took all of the most vital, high traffic items and I moved them all to the bottommost shelves and drawers. Now this was a huge station with drawer fridges and a Pepsi cooler, so you can imagine how low those lowest shelves and drawers really were. Not just the coolers either. I also did the equipment drawers, dry goods, freezers, I mean you name it, and it definitely got a makeover. I unfortunately didn't get to witness my artwork firsthand, but I did hear about it later from the dish guy. He said that she spent days cursing, bending over, and having to reorganize everything. I never heard anything about it from Tom because he was still mad at her for driving me out. So either he thought she deserved it or just didn't believe her. Either way, imagining her spending days having to bend over every couple of minutes definitely scratched the itch of pure frustration that had been built up over the 4 months after my chef left. I know this is awfully long for a petty revenge story, but this woman seriously made my job an irritating nightmare every single day. I love this story so much. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I've worked in restaurants like this and I've dealt with people like this on a first-hand basis, so this made me smile and laugh so much. I love everything about it. Like seriously, this felt like a cathartic experience. This was wonderful. To the original poster, I know exactly what you're going through, and I'm so glad that you got some kind of revenge against your Jamie. Because I had my own Jamie, and let me tell you something, after they started calling me princess, all because I didn't know what I was doing, that was the day I was like, oh man, I'm quitting this job and I'm never coming back. So seriously, you are my hero for actually pulling something off like that and making her life just a little bit miserable. Because from the sounds of it, it really seems like Jamie absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic manager refuses to allow me to clock in early from home, despite the fact that I have a stomach problem that is quite debilitating, forcing me to go the extra mile to prove her wrong and make her look incredibly stupid. Here's how I did it. Okay, so last summer, I got a new manager that I reported directly to at work. She had decades of good experience, but none as a manager of people, and it turns out she was awful at it. She was given about a month to learn the ropes before I was passed off from reporting to the director to her. For that meeting, she mentioned that I needed to be on site 3 days a week, clocking in on site at my scheduled time, time. Now, I had been coming in 1 or 2 times weekly for nearly 18 months, and often while clocking in at home. I also communicated that I had started going through some yet-to-be-diagnosed gut issues that made my mornings especially unpleasant. But those details fell on deaf ears, and instead I was told, come in at your scheduled times or get an ADA exemption. And for context, ADA stands for Americans with Disabilities Act. So I thought to myself, okay jerk, I'll call that bluff. And it was then that I decided to start the ADA process. Within a matter of weeks, I had documented permission to clock in from home every day at my personal discretion. Plus, a couple of months later, I was diagnosed with moderate to severe ulcerative colitis. Now, this manager thankfully didn't want to be doing this job and left recently after about 9 months. But you know what? I get to keep clocking in at home every single day until the heat death of the universe, thanks to their callous attitude and general indifference to my discomfort. Okay, I can't stand dealing with managers like this. They micromanage every detail about your job as if you're trying to get one over on them. But seriously, like most people are just trying to get by and like get things done. Like I know that's how I feel when I work. And the fact that your manager was really like, oh yeah, apply for disability, see if I care. That's the only way you're clocking in early. It's like, lady, what are you talking about? Like it is not that serious. Like my God, have a heart. Or at least learn how to be a good manager because holy crap, you are definitely not one. So yeah, I love the way the original poster handled this because they clearly got under this person's skin, so much so that they probably quit because of it. Am I the jerk for making my sick husband clean up his own vomit after he missed the trash can sitting right next to him? Because right now he's pretty pissed off at me and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's how it went down. Okay, it's important to note that this is definitely a throwaway account. My husband has been dealing with a stomach bug of some kind the last few days. Vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, the works. I've been taking care of him and the house and the kids by myself because of it, which is a lot of work because 2 of them are under 5. This morning my husband wanted to try eating something, so I made him toast as requested. As he was on the couch nibbling on his breakfast, I was making our toddlers their breakfast and feeding them when I hear him violently gagging in the other room. He had been hanging out in the living room during the entire illness, so he had a trash can in there in case he had a puke or whatever. I called out to him to remember to use it or to go to the bathroom if he thought he was gonna vomit, but guess what? He didn't listen. And instead, he threw up all over the floor and got some on the couch. My husband then comes into where I'm feeding our kids and says that he's gonna go to our room, so can I clean up his puke? And I said to him, absolutely not. There was really no reason for him to vomit all over the floor, so he needed to take care of it himself. I had been cleaning it up all weekend already without complaining when he was getting sick by surprise, but he has plenty of time to prepare for this and not make a mess. Well, my husband is now mad at me for not showing him a good bedside manner. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because this really is incredibly frustrating. Dude, there's no way you're the jerk. This is so stupid. He had a trash can. He had everything set up in the living room. Why in the world did he puke on the floor or the couch? Like if he was a kid, I would totally understand. But this is a grown adult we're talking about here. Like, are you serious? If he is really that sick, then he should have that trash can glued to his chest. Like seriously, dude, keep that right next to you at all times. There's no reason to ever step away from it. Like seriously, what was he thinking? And this is not you being callous to him being sick. Like this is absolutely his fault. And trust me, I've been there as well, where you throw up and you feel like garbage. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna leave it on the floor and be like, hey, could you clean it up for me? Like, no, dude, are you kidding me? Get down there and clean it up yourself. That's so irresponsible. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. There's no way on earth I would ever clean that up. And if I was in the original poster's shoes, I probably would have reacted the exact same way. An entitled jerk who is also riding the same Greyhound bus as me tries to act like my friend just to board the bus first. But after watching him bother literally everybody else on this bus for hours on end, I decided that enough was enough and I shut this guy down in a way he will truly never forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so at the time I was a 26-year-old female taking a Greyhound bus and everything that could go wrong really was going wrong. I'm keenly aware that I am disabled and fragile. I used to be overly nice and avoid saying anything that might cause trouble, but in this instance, I was 40 hours into what was supposed to be a 28-hour Greyhound trip and had a minimum of 12 more to go. We were in the Seattle station in the early morning. Most of the passengers had spent the night there, and this one guy was pissing everybody off. He was either oblivious or maybe enjoying how upset people were getting. He had directly insulted one of the other passengers who had taken it upon themselves to make sure I was okay on this trip the night before. I stood in the disabled passenger line with my neon pink cane and one bus friend I'd made who was helping me with my bag. Well, this guy comes and stands next to me and starts talking to me like we are the best of friends. I looked at him for a second before telling him to get the heck away from me and saying a few choice words about his poor character and how there was no way I was going to let him pretend to be my friend just to board the bus early. And after I laid into him, I heard someone snicker at that point. Well, he was so startled and then offended that for a second I thought I might get attacked. My brash bush buddies who had taken me under their wing stepped in and sent him to the back of the line. And as a result, everybody clapped and cheered at his disgrace. Okay, there's one line in here that really stands out, and people in the comments section of this post actually pointed it out as well. It's the fact that you assume that he enjoys watching people get upset, and like he's taking pleasure in the fact that people are pissed off at him. And people who act this way, who are just antagonistic for the sake of getting a rise out of you or something like that, like those people suck. They're super obnoxious. I can't stand people who act like that, which for me makes it even sweeter that you shut him down in front of everybody. So yeah, good for you for standing up for yourself, because this guy was being incredibly creepy and he needed to be shut down sooner than later. An entitled dollar store old lady bumps her cart into me multiple times while I'm trying to check out at the register, resulting in me embarrassing her and shutting her down in a way I'm sure she's never experienced before in her life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I stopped at the dollar store on my way home from work today to pick up some paper towels and some milk. And when I go up there to check out, there's a line, which is totally fine. I'm standing in line minding my own business when I feel a hard bump on my hip. I then look back and I see this little old frail lady behind me who has pushed her shopping cart right into me. I think to myself, oh, she probably doesn't have good vision or depth perception, so that must be why she bumped into me. So I move up a little bit, taking care not to get into the personal space of the person ahead of me. So the next person goes up to the register and we all move up. And guess what? The little old lady pushes her cart into me again. When I look back, she is looking anywhere except at me. And at this point, I get a little suspicious. This then happens 2 more times as the line moves, but I'm still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. That is, until my turn at the register comes up, and as I start putting my items on the counter, this little old lady bumps me again and starts putting her items on the counter along with mine. Now, this is not a conveyor belt checkout. It's just a small single person space. At this point, I turn to her and I politely say, "Can you please wait?" All while I put her items back in her cart. And guess what? This little old lady gets this incredulous look on her face like she can't believe I had the audacity to tell her to wait. She then starts sputtering and muttering and looking around at all the other customers waiting in line like she expects someone to stick up for her. But all the other customers are looking at me, waiting to see what will happen next. So I just simply finished my transaction and I left. But it honestly leaves me scratching my head because I seriously cannot believe this lady acted this way towards me. Okay, I think anyone could agree with this, and hopefully I'm right, but you've got one chance to bump into me with your shopping cart. The first time's gonna be an accident, and anything after that is gonna be on purpose. And you better believe I'm gonna call that out, dude. Like, there's no way I'm gonna let that slide. And I think anybody would, because personally, I don't like those shopping carts hitting my ankles, and I don't know anybody who would. So there really is a nice way to do it and then escalate from there. But like, this lady was doing it over and over again. This pushy old lady just trying to be like, "Oh, hurry it up. It's my turn. Let me go next." And the fact that she looked around as if you offended her in some kind of way just because you told her to wait and put her items back, it's like, lady, what are you talking about? Those dollar store checkout spaces are usually really small. We're talking maybe 2 feet of room, if that. And she's over here stacking her items trying to be like, "Well, it's my turn, I guess." Like, no, dude, are you kidding? That's crazy to me. So good for you for saying something and standing up for yourself, because this little old lady absolutely deserved it. An entitled customer demands that I give him a 10% discount on an item he's buying, claiming that he deserves it all because of a sale that ended 2 weeks ago at our store. And I'm honestly blown away by how stupid this guy was and how entitled he truly was acting. Here's how it went down. Okay, so a few weeks ago, we had a 10% off store-wide sale, and that sale ended 2 weeks ago. Well, cue this customer emailing us a day later, asking if we sell a specific item that we definitely don't. However, it's something one of our suppliers sell, so I told him we might be able to get it in as a special order. Now, since we have never sold this item before, we need to work out the retail price based on the cost price, the shipping, and the tax, which means we might have a bit of a back and forth between the supplier and us to get shipping quotes. Now, because it's quite a process, I didn't want to start it until the customer was happy to proceed. And you know what? He was happy to go forward. So I started to finalize the price. Our supplier is in a very different time zone, so back and forth takes a few days. It's essentially one email per day because there isn't a single overlapping business hour where we're both open. However, we both figured out what it would cost to get it, as well as what it would cost to sell it, and overall it was about $500. Well, the following conversation happened with the customer, and honestly, I'm still scratching my head about it. The customer said to me, "Is that with the 10% discount?" I responded by saying, "No, that's just the price of it." The customer then said, "Oh, okay, so I'll have to pay like what, $450 then?" I explained to him again that it's only $500, but they literally double back and ask, "Well, where's the discount?" When I ask what discount they're talking about, they say the 10% discount from the store-wide sale. I then said to them, "Well, that ended 2 weeks ago." But they responded, "Yeah, but I asked about the product the day after the sale ended." Now, at this point, I just said to him, "The sale is over and we don't even sell this product. It's a special order." Well, this guy responded by saying, "Well, most stores honor the discount if the customer's just a
day late, you know.
But I respond back by saying, yeah, we do that for products that we have in stock that were for part of the sale, not for products that are special orders. We have never stocked or sold this item, so it was never on sale. So, since there was never a sales price that you missed out on, the cost is $500. The customer then says to me, well, I'm not buying it unless you give me a discount. But I just responded by saying, okay then, feel free to call back if you change your mind, and then I hung up on him. I just couldn't believe it. Imagine expecting a discount on an item a store doesn't even sell, literally 2 weeks after a sale ended. Keep in mind, he didn't ask for a discount, he expected one. He just assumed he was entitled to one because he asked about a product we don't sell the day after a sale ended, and then got all huffy about it when he didn't get his way. I should have just told him it was $555, then sold it to him for $500 on sale. But unfortunately, I lacked the foresight to predict this level of stupid. Okay, I've worked retail before and I've dealt with people like this, and my god, they are so annoying. Because the original poster has it right. Like, this is not even your product. You're doing a special order, you don't normally sell this, so of course there's not gonna be a sale on it. And you know it's awful because this guy literally made you work for nothing. You had to send one email a day just to get the details worked out, only for the customer to be like, well, I'm not getting a discount, so I'm not gonna buy it, sorry. It's like, dude, you suck. Please never come back. Like, that is the worst thing on planet Earth. So I honestly just don't blame you for getting frustrated because I think I would be in the exact same boat. Today, I messed up by losing my fiance over a cryptocurrency, where I lost all of our money meant for our wedding, resulting in her literally walking out of my life. Here's what happened. Okay, yeah, I want to start off by saying that I totally screwed up big time. Me and my fiance, who we will call Jess for the sake of the story, have been together for 4 years and engaged for 1. Everything was great, we were planning our wedding, picking venues and all that other good stuff. But then I got sucked into a cryptocurrency. And you know what? I thought I was going to be some genius investor. It started when I saw some posts online about meme coins and that they were like super fast and cheap fees and all this other garbage. And I'm not rich, but I have like $10,000 saved up for the wedding. So I figured, why not throw $5,000 into one of these coins? I can make a quick buck and surprise Jess with a fancier honeymoon. I didn't tell her because I wanted it to be a surprise. But you know what? It was a big mistake. I lost everything in the first few weeks. My $10,000 was gone and I was freaking out. I couldn't sleep. Jess noticed that I was acting weird, kept asking what was wrong, and I didn't want to tell her that I blew our wedding fund, so I lied and said that it was work stress. Eventually, she found out anyways. I left my laptop open and she saw the trading application. She saw the red numbers and the entire mess I was in. And you know what? She flipped out, screaming how I gambled our future without even telling her. I tried to explain, said I'd make it back, but she wasn't having it. She said I broke her trust and acted like some kind of sneaky addict. She then gave me back the ring, packed her bag, and left to her mom's place. That was 2 weeks ago, and she's barely talking to me and says that she needs some space. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh wow, that is a big mess up. If you're gonna invest in crypto, my god, you gotta be careful. Like seriously, that's like really volatile and you could lose everything just like the original poster. So I definitely do not recommend what he did because that was not very smart, because obviously he literally has lost everything and that really sucks. My entitled sister-in-law removes me and the rest of my family from her wedding photos entirely, as she literally made it seem like we did not even exist. So I decided to get some revenge by returning the favor in full, by choosing to eviscerate her from my wedding entirely, while also humiliating her in the process. Here's what happened. When my brother got married, his bride, who's now my sister-in-law, had very specific expectations. She wanted everyone in the family to wear their wedding colors, and we all did. People flew in from out of state. Everyone made an effort to make her feel celebrated. Well, the day before the wedding, she made some offhand but clearly pointed remarks about how our side of the family never takes anything seriously, and how she wasn't expecting us to take this seriously either. Well, the comments made their rounds and feelings were hurt before the wedding even began, but we still showed up, looked great, and we participated. Fast forward to getting the wedding photos and video, and not a single photo of our side of the family was posted. Not a single one. In the entire 3-minute highlight reel, there was literally no faces of our family, except for a 3-second clip of my parents with a bride and groom. The rest of us were cut out as if we didn't even exist. I texted her very cordially, mind you, and I asked if she could send me the pictures with just our siblings since none had been posted, and she responded to me by saying, "Oh, we never even took those pictures." But that's wild because I remember helping people adjust corsages for them, but then she just doubled down on the gaslighting. I gave it 6 months and then I asked again, and then suddenly she had no idea what I was talking about. So I thought to myself, fine, if you want to act that way, then trust me, I could do the exact same thing. And this is where my petty revenge comes into play. I'm getting married in 8 days and I've been engaged for 6 months, and I've been planning this moment since she tried to erase us. I hired a great photographer and videographer, and what she doesn't know is that the videographer has a secret mission: make it look like she's getting all the attention, track her, hover near her like she's the star of the show, make her feel seen, and then during the final cut, she won't appear for even a second, just like the way she made sure that we didn't. Now, originally, I didn't even invite her. Now, word must have gotten out because she cornered me at a family dinner, and she said to me, "Unfortunately, I have work the day before and after your wedding, but I should still be able to make it." Well, I was so stunned. I just said to her, "That's fine. The Airbnb is booked whether you're there or not." So now, unfortunately, she's coming. And just to cope with this, I decided to spell her name wrong on the wedding invite on purpose. And that was just my first move, with the video blackout being my last. Now, here's the thing. I'm not asking for advice, and I'm not asking if it's too mean, because it's not. It's exactly fair, and trust me, she definitely deserves it. Oh man, I love some mutually assured destruction. First of all, your sister-in-law sounds like an absolute jerk. And trust me, I could have said a lot of different words than jerk, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Who in their right mind would go into a new family and be like, "Oh, let's edit them out of my highlight reel"? It's like, my God, dude, at least pretend like you like your in-laws. Like, why would you start that foundation for a lifelong of dealing with these people? That doesn't seem smart or wise in the slightest. Like, that really is a miscalculation. So you know what? I completely agree with the original poster. Your sister-in-law deserves to be eviscerated from your highlight reel. Like, not even a second of her should ever be shown, because that's what she did to you. And then she tried to act like, "Oh, we didn't even get pictures of you guys." Like, that's obnoxious, because you know for a fact she coordinated that never being shown. So yeah, in this case, an eye for an eye truly is the best solution, because this lady sounds like she's a complete monster. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that I know I'm smarter than him after he literally ranked me as the dumbest person in our friend group? Because right now, apparently, he's really offended that I said that, and now I feel like some of my friends are turning against me in favor of him. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I have a friend who's also 19 who likes to lie a lot. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. He lies about random stuff constantly and forgets what he even said. He's told people that we've been friends for years, longer than we actually have been, which makes no sense because they could just ask me. He even said he lived in a 3-story house when he was in a double wide, and even made up how much money he has. His lies are almost always easy to fact check, and honestly, I've never judged him for any of that. I was raised not to care about superficial stuff like that. But one thing that's always been weird is that he loves to act like he's better than everyone, especially when it comes to academics. In high school, he claimed to be on honor roll all 4 years, never failed a class, had a GPA of 4.0, and all this other garbage. But I saw him taking credit recovery senior year, and one of my friends saw his grades on a teacher's computer, and they were really bad. And by bad, I mean like really bad. But even still, I never brought it up. I didn't judge him because we all struggle sometimes. In fact, I opened up to him once and told him I technically failed Spanish, but my teacher passed me in the end. He then started making fun of me and calling me names, which I didn't take personally because I know that's just projection. Anyways, fast forward to a recent trip to Walmart with our friend group, and somehow we start talking about academics. He then decides to rank everyone from smartest to dumbest, and guess what? He puts me in the last place. And that really annoyed me because I knew for a fact that he was failing and lying, and I'd never corrected him before. So I finally said, "You know what? I know I'm smarter than you academically, but I've just never cared to correct you on it." Well, he got really upset about that and hasn't spoken to me ever since then. Some of my friends said that I was being mean, but others said that he had it coming. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, I'm speechless that anybody's on this guy's side. Like, seriously, he's absolutely at fault. He ranked you the stupidest person in your friend group. How is that in any way justifiable? Like, are you kidding me right now? Oh yeah, he's just gonna sit there and call you dumb, and then the second you turn the tables, suddenly that's too far? Like, that's really stupid in my opinion. And the fact that any of your friends are trying to be like, "Oh yeah, you just went a little too far, that's really mean." Like, those people suck. I would never want to like talk to them ever again and be like, "Oh, so you do think I'm the stupidest person in the group?" Like, what is going on right now? How is that at all defendable? So in case you were wondering, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy's an idiot, and in my opinion, it was only a matter of time before somebody called him out. The entitled neighborhood bully is a Karen who's getting way too close to being served a cease and desist, because this lady feels the need to constantly tell me what I can and can't do about my property, and at this point, I've hit my breaking point and I'm about to snap. Here's what's going down. Okay, to start things out, there's a neighbor who thinks it's okay to tell everyone what to do with their own property. Every time she decides to talk to anyone, she stands in the street or in their yard, shouting for them like she's calling a dog. She talks at people instead of to them, and is the rudest person in the entire neighborhood. In fact, yesterday, she was in the street yelling, and she didn't say anything that indicated to me that she was trying to get my attention. I've lived in places where yelling in the street means that the person is either like high on some substance, or they're just straight up crazy. emergency, so I was just attending to my pets and not paying attention to her. Now, my name is not Missy, Misty, or Hey You. I don't answer to random crap like that. She finally got my attention and I told her that she can't yell at me like I'm a dog. She then claimed that she didn't, but other neighbors agree that she definitely did. She started saying that we have to cut vines and stuff out of the fence between the 2 yards and said that she was going to call code enforcement if we didn't. My cousin went out as soon as he got home, as he lives here too, and he cut the vines and plants even though the roots of everything that she was talking about are from her side of the fence. Well, this morning she called code enforcement anyways because she didn't like being told that she can't talk to us like we're dogs and that she needs to keep herself off of our property. We have a barrel that we have some unusable metal in and it's not for trash. And she's put trash in it and claimed that we've been using it for trash and rainwater. And trust me, even that jerk from code enforcement was baffled by that. Part of what bothers me is that she has multiple code violations on her property, but still she tries to tell everyone else what she wants them to do with theirs. While we're outside working on getting things situated the way the code enforcement officer told us to do so, she literally drove past slowly, mean mugging us the entire time. My husband even yelled out, "What do you want?" She then just drove off down the street, passing her property instead of going home. This lady is stupid if she thinks we're gonna keep putting up with her shenanigans. If she continues to do this stuff, I will serve her a cease and desist. The last neighbor to receive one from me got a crash course in the legality of such a notice, and almost caught charges from the police as well as the civil case we were about to file if pushed. So this Karen has seriously pushed me to my breaking point because right now I'm not sure what to do. Oh man, I love this so much. I love the fact that you're standing up for yourself and saying, oh no, we will absolutely go the legal route. The original poster and some of the comments they made down below in their post, they said that the neighbor directly across the street from her is already compiling footage from his camera, which according to the original poster will show everything that they need. And that's really exciting. Like, if there's anything you really want, it's evidence in a case like this. Because you know for a fact this Karen's gonna lie through her teeth. If it does go to court or any kind of like legal matter, first off, I don't know what goes into anything like that, but also you can bet that she's gonna be like, oh, I never did that. I'm a good member of the neighborhood. But hopefully overall, none of that goes there. Like, that's just gonna be annoying. And hopefully this stupid Karen gets a life and leaves you alone, because you guys are literally just trying to live your life in peace. And the last thing you need is some idiot trying to tell you what you can and can't do. Today, I messed up by trying to flirt with a guy at the gym and eventually ending up in a full-blown CPR situation. And I'm honestly so embarrassed and I don't think I can ever go back to that gym ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, this happened yesterday and I'm still cringing so hard I might never step into that gym ever again. I'm a 22-year-old female and I recently started going to this new gym, and there's this insanely cute guy who works out around the same time as me. I've been trying to find the courage to talk to him for a couple of weeks, and yesterday I finally decided it was time. I saw him doing deadlifts and I thought, okay, casual compliment, easy in. So I walked by, I smiled, and I said, "Your lats are majestic." I thought to myself, what am I doing? Majestic? What was I thinking? I don't know why I said that. I meant to say you're lifting a lot or nice form or literally anything else. He was confused and said, thanks? And I panicked and decided to just walk away and die in the locker room. While trying to speed walk away in embarrassment, I tripped over a medicine ball somewhere left in the way. My face planted on the floor and I knocked the wind out of myself so hard I couldn't breathe for like 20 seconds. A trainer saw it happen and thought I was having a heart attack and started actual CPR protocol before I could wheeze out, "I'm fine." Well, that same cute guy helped me hold my legs up while I got oxygen. I'm pretty sure right then I died inside. Anyways, I'm now the CPR girl at the gym, and yes, I still plan to go back even though I really feel like I can't. Oh my god, this is like worst case scenario. In fact, this is something that you would see straight out of a sitcom. Like, seriously, you walked up to him and talked about his majestic lats, tripped, and then nearly died. Like, you just almost died right there on the ground. And that poor trainer's like, oh my god, someone's having a heart attack. Finally, the CPR certification is gonna come into play. And they actually started doing CPR protocol in front of the guy while you're there like, oh my god. With him holding your legs up, dude, I would die. I completely understand. So I'm right there with you, man. If you gotta switch gyms, do it now. It's totally fine. Or better yet, double down and be like, I don't care, I'm going back. Because sure, it was embarrassing, but it's not impossible to get over. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my father officiate my wedding? Because after I told him that I don't want him to do that, he acted incredibly entitled and freaked out, demanding that I apologize for even suggesting that he not be allowed to do it. And at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my father has been a reverend for 30 years. He and my mother are still married and they have 2 children, my sister and myself. Now, neither my sister or myself have a good relationship with my parents. They weren't downright physically awful towards us, but both of them are definitely narcissists. And some of the things they did left deep psychological scars that I still deal with to this day. It has always been a running joke from my parents that my dad would perform our wedding ceremonies and christen our children. This was the standard practice for my sister's wedding and the birth of her child. child. This, however, is not something that I want. I can't have my father preach to me and my husband to be about love when he has rarely shown it to me throughout my childhood. So a few weeks ago, my fiance and I were having dinner with them, and we were discussing our plans for the future. My dad said something along the lines of, "I wonder what message I could give at your ceremony." And I shot him down immediately, saying that I did not want him to perform the ceremony. He then got mad and asked me to explain myself, almost like I had told him that I had unalived someone. I then told him that I still wanted him to walk me down the aisle, which made him blow up even more. I finally said that he could choose between being my father or being my pastor, and that was the end of the conversation and then the end of the dinner. He's now demanding that I apologize because apparently it's his right as my father to perform the ceremony. He's even saying he's not going to pay for my wedding, and he's saying that if he doesn't perform the ceremony, he and my mother will not be attending. I'm now considering cutting all contact and eloping, but I'm scared I would miss them when the big day comes along. So am I the jerk for the direction I've gone? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Holy cow, you're not kidding. He really is a narcissist. This guy's demanding an apology all because you're like, no, I don't want you to do the ceremony for my wedding. Which, by the way, it's your wedding. You can literally do whatever you want. So for him to be like, oh, this is ridiculous. I demand to be the pastor at your wedding. Like, that's really obnoxious. I don't blame you for being like, no, you're not doing it this time. This is weird. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your dad's being super entitled by like assuming this is something he's going to do no matter what. Because at the end of the day, just like I've said before, this is absolutely your choice. And you should definitely not be held captive by your dad's wishes. Today, I lost a 5-year friendship overnight, all because I tapped her on the backpack to get her attention. Because now she's claiming that I tried to hurt her, despite the fact that I was just trying to get her attention and talk to her. And at this point, I'm so weirded out that I may have done something wrong that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my 22-year-old friend and I were at the library late until like 2 o'clock in the morning. She then suddenly decided to leave and she started walking off before I could offer to go with her. I didn't want her walking home alone that late. So I called out to her a few times as we were still inside the well-lit library around other students, but she still didn't respond. Now I figured that she had her headphones in or something like that. So I gently tapped her backpack to get her attention. She then got startled and said that I scared her. I immediately apologized and I told her I just wanted to walk her home so she wouldn't be alone that late. She then said that she was fine going alone, so I said okay and I stayed to study. Well, since then she's been completely passive-aggressive, ignoring me, giving me the cold shoulder, etc. We had plans to take senior pictures together, which she agreed to do weeks ago, and now she says she doesn't want to do them anymore. When I asked what was going on, she said she felt uncomfortable around me and thought I might hurt her in the future, and that I should be grateful that she wasn't reporting me to the authorities. And when she said this, I was stunned. I explained that I never meant to scare her and apologized again, but I told her that calling me aggressive over lightly tapping her bag just to get her attention felt really extreme. I asked her to report it if she truly believed that I meant her harm. I mean, there are cameras in the library that could back up what happened, but at that point, she finally backed off. And honestly, this isn't the first weird moment we've had. Months ago, we were play fighting and I lightly slapped her arm in a joking way. You know, stuff that friends would do. She then hit back harder and then told me to get out of her car and not touch her ever again. When she did this, I was shocked, but I apologized because I understand boundaries. And I know how being touched without consent can be triggering. What really hurt though was what happened the night at the library. That night at the library, she had pressured me to open up about my own experience with some scary situations, which I eventually did, and afterwards her energy totally shifted. I mean, I thought she would understand given her own experiences, but she barely spoke to me after that and then just decided to walk off. I feel like this is part of a bigger pattern with her, where she always needs to be the more hurt one. I told her on the phone call today that I can't be friends with someone who sees me as a threat, especially with my own history of some awful stuff that's happened to me. She then said to me, well, I can't be friends with someone who can hurt me. So honestly, am I at fault here? Because at this point, I am so devastated by what's going on. Dude, your friend sucks. Let me just say that first and foremost, you didn't do anything wrong. Because first of all, I think you have it right. I really think she really believes she has to be like the center of attention. And also, just to clear the air, of course you didn't attack her. Like, that's just a ridiculous statement for her to make. Like, come on, you were tapping her on the shoulder. You were not like going after her to try and hurt her. She's overreacting and trying to blow this up into something that it's not. So if this was me and I had someone saying this kind of thing to my face and being like, oh, I can't be friends with you. You could hurt me one day. I can't have that. I would see this as a blessing from the universe and be like, okay, see you later. Because this is some insane behavior and you do not deserve to deal with this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not moving from the front of the line at a Disneyland street parade after a huge family cut in front of me and demanded that I move back out of their way? Here's what went down. Okay, so I was at Disneyland one day and I happened to be there for the start of one of their parades. I was riding one of the park's motorized scooters and managed to snag a spot right up to the barrier line sign that they put up that blocks pedestrians from crossing the road when the parade is about to start, which honestly is pretty laughable if you ask me. I was among the first ones to line up behind it after the announcement about the parade starting soon was broadcasted. It was the perfect timing and perfect spot to be in, right, for front row seats? Especially since I was using my scooter as the seat. As people are gathering around and behind me and my scooter to come watch the parade, the crowd coming to watch the parade was getting huge, with little room to move even if they wanted to. But through all of this one rude family comes up to the other side of the barrier to watch the parade, which put them right in the path of the parade and blocked my view along with everybody else's who was standing around me. Luckily, some Disney staff saw what the family had done, and they were immediately ordered to get behind the barrier where they belong with everybody else watching the parade, because they were blocking the parade route by standing where they were. After some grumbling, the family did move, but the jerks tried to demand that I, along with everybody else who had perfect spots right up to the barrier, get out of their way and move back so they could use the spots for themselves. You know, so they and their stupid kids could see the parade up close, instead of everybody else who had gotten to the right side of the barrier line first. Well, everybody and myself all flat out refused to move, and told them flat out to go to the back of the parade line where they belonged, since they cut in front of all of us who had been there way ahead of them before they even showed up. You know, on the wrong side of the barrier. It's not our problem the staff told them to move, nor is it our obligation to get out of their way when they were trying to block our view. Dude, I'm telling you, Disney adults and Disney people in general are some of the most obnoxious, entitled people on planet Earth. And I'm not talking about like the normal fan who's like loves Disney and they love going to Disney World and the amusement park and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then they go back home and they live a normal life. I'm talking about people like this who feel they are completely entitled to whatever's in front of them. Because I know for a fact if I was standing next to you and I was dealing with this as well, oh man, I would be losing my mind. There's no way I would put up with that. Like seriously, this is so rude. So good for you and everybody else around you for standing up for yourselves, because these people deserve to get shut down. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for leaving a bad review after paying nearly $100 for a cake that was quite literally nothing like what I asked for? Here's what happened. So back in February, just before my birthday, I had an idea, because my sister, who's gluten sensitive, probably hasn't had a real birthday cake in years, just the occasional gluten-free pastries. So I decided to go all out this year and order her special cake from a local gluten-free baker that I had seen posting in a Facebook group. Her cakes always looked amazing, and I thought this would be a perfect treat. Since it was February and the cake wouldn't be needed until May, I figured it would give her plenty of time to let me know if she couldn't do it. I spent over $100 on the cake, with charges for fresh fruit and edible glitter. The design I asked for was a vintage heart cake in pastel orange, which was classic with hand-pipe lettering, glittering beneath the letters, and arches of frosting. I sent Emma, not her real name, 3 photos as references. She seemed excited and assured me that she could make it happen. Well, cut to May, and at 11:00 p.m. the night before I was supposed to pick up the cake, I get an email from Emma. She had frosted the cake in the wrong color. She offered a partial refund but didn't send any photos of how the cake looked. I thanked her for the offer but politely mentioned I was a little disappointed it wasn't the orange I had ordered. She then offered to re-ice the cake entirely, which I appreciated. The next day, I rushed home from work while my mom picked up the cake, and when I opened the box, my heart sank. The cake was completely different from what I had ordered. It was wide, flat, and possibly only one layer, nowhere near the height I requested, and the color was a pinkish orange, but it didn't have the edible glitter that I had paid for. It was clearly a home baker situation, and not the professional style that I had been told she could do. I was still holding out hope that maybe the taste would make up for the visual disappointment, so I decided to wait until we tried it. But when we did, the cake was incredibly dry, like maybe it was overbaked or something like that, and instead of the promise of fresh fruit, it had literally frozen berries. So I emailed Emma, attached photos comparing the cake I received with the one I had requested, and I told her I wasn't asking for a refund, but wished that she had let me know earlier that she couldn't make the cake that I had asked for, you know, so I could find another baker. Since I didn't hear back from her and I wanted to leave an honest review, I wrote that the cake was dry and didn't match the design that I had requested. But I also stated that it was still good and I wished the business all the best. Well, that's when things really took a turn. Emma replied to my review and I honestly felt my stomach drop. She accused me of altering the photos and said I shouldn't have left a review at all. But for the record, I'm not a photographer. I'm an accountant, and I didn't alter anything. I don't even know how. I thought my review was quite mild considering the situation, but now I'm wondering if I overstepped. What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, bro. There's no way I would have let that slide. The original poster states they paid over $100 to get this crap set up. Like if I paid that much money, dude, that cake better be perfect. There's no excuse for that. So no, you're not the jerk for leaving a review, and in my opinion, you could have been way harsher about it. Because because based on what you described, this Emma lady absolutely deserved it. An entitled family tries to steal my dog right out from underneath me while I'm at a public park, claiming that they not only deserve it, but also that there's nothing I can do about it, leaving me incredibly panicked and not sure what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm heated. And no, it has nothing to do with the rising temperatures. Like, this is absolutely infuriating that these types of people actually exist. For some context, I have two dogs, a 14-year-old Chihuahua and a 4-year-old Cheagle. I decided to take them to a nearby park to let them get some fresh air, as they've been laying around pretty much all week, and I figured that they could do well with the exercise. So I grab a few treats, a gallon of water, and their favorite ball and stuffed toy. We hop into the car and then we head out. The day is quite nice, not too hot, but definitely starting to get warmer, and I figure that we could do a nice lunch when we get back. We get to the park and there's a few people there. It seems like there's two families and a couple of people playing volleyball not too far away. So I park, I find a nice big empty spot with plenty of running space, and I let the girls just run loose. We're playing around for a good 5 minutes at this point, and I'm trying to keep my balance with my walking cane so they don't knock me over as they run back towards me and into my legs like I'm a bowling pin. For the sake of the story, I'll call my Chihuahua Jay and my Cheagle Charlie. I will note that Charlie really, and I mean really, likes to play. We're talking with anyone, everyone, anything, and everything. And that's mainly my father's part of spoiling and coddling her as a pup when she was only 2 months old. She was never disciplined. She was spoiled with human food so much that she wouldn't eat regular dog or puppy food. She disobeys you, rarely listens when you call her name, etc. She's always wagging her tail so much for whatever reason that her entire hips shake and she'll get exhausted from just being happy. Anyways, at some point, there are some kids running around at a jungle gym nearby, laughing and playing and doing as kids do, and some adults that are trying to gather them all up and load them into their van. Well, Charlie sees this and decided, hey, that looks fun. I like fun. I'm gonna go have fun, and decides to run off and join in, while my other dog Jay is chilling in the grass next to her water ball and stuffed toy. So I call out to Charlie, walking towards her, whistling and snapping my fingers to try and get her to come back, but it's no dice. She keeps moving and reaches the family, running around happily between everyone's feet like a cat with zoomies, whose life goal is to trip everyone it sees. The family's almost loaded up into the van, and one kid stops and bends down to pet Charlie. I'm thinking, oh good, they stopped her from running off, and I keep walking. The mom of the group is buckling a kid into the seat and turns around to notice, looks up at me and then back at Charlie, and then picks her up and puts her in the kid's arms. She then closes the car door and ushers her kid to the other side, hurrying them to get inside of the car. I'm then close enough to hear her say, go, right now. I then yell out and I say, hey, stop, that's my dog. And I weeble wobble as fast as I can towards the car. Out of the car steps who I assume is the father and maybe an uncle. Now, I'm really not sure, as it was an older gentleman with gray hair, and the father steps in front of me and puts his hand on my chest, stopping me right in my tracks. And this is where things really start to get weird. Now, because I was walking fast, the sudden stop almost causes me to fall backwards, but luckily I maintain my balance. The dad looks at me and says, well, hey now, that's far enough. I look at him and I say, that's my dog. She literally just took my dog. And I'm shouting at this point, making sure I get the attention of anyone else around. The person who I can assume is the uncle starts wagging his finger in my face and says, no, he is ours. We found him. We adopted him legally. The father then looked at him and said, you stop, be quiet. Now the mother is on the other side of the car watching us, holding her kid's shoulder, still not inside the car. I looked at him and I said, if you like that finger, you'll keep it out of my face. Give me back my dog. The uncle then waves his hand at me and scoffs, with the father saying, that is not your dog, and he can put his finger wherever he wants. He then jabs his finger right in my chest. Now at this point, I take a step back and I lift my cane up and I say, don't let this thing fool you. Give me back my dog now. Now as reference, I'm by no means intimidating. I'm 5'7" and I wobble around with a cane. The father is a foot taller than me, and despite having a beer belly, he still had some muscles on his arms. The mother then shouts from the other side of the car, you already have a dog. We like this one. My kid deserves it. Look, she's so cute. But I just scream at them, give me back my dog. The father then says, you better get your dog and get out of here before you get hurt, little man. Now my other dog Jay had made her way over and is standing a few feet behind me. I call for my dog to go to the car and she thankfully turns around and heads that way. At that point, an older and younger woman come up from behind the uncle, who was now standing silent this entire time but standing over on the side. The younger woman then says, hey, no, that's not right. We had been here when you arrived and you didn't have the dog. He did. And the young woman pointed at me. The father then looks at the uncle and says, get in the car. The uncle complies and gets in, and the father takes Charlie from her kid's arm and sets her on the ground. The kid says, oh, bye doggy, you're cute. And Charlie runs away to join Jay at my car, but not before running to pick up her her ball and Jay's stuffed toy at the same time, falling and running back to the car empty-handed. The uncle then looks at me and says, "We better not see you around or you're gonna get messed up." Now at this point, I bite my tongue and I set my cane down, glaring at them as they get in their car and drive off, with the two women still standing next to me. Once the family is gone, the two ask if I'm alright and if I need anything. I say no and I thank them for stepping in, while also apologizing to them for having to step in at all. With all of it being said and done, I head back to my dogs and I pick up their stuff, and I'm back into the car and I head back home. I'm now currently in my room in bed, slightly shaking with fear, anger, I don't know, but I'm just glad that things didn't escalate any further. Right now, Jay is stepping all over my chest, and Charlie threw a rawhide at my face, so I really think that overall things are just gonna work out. Dude, I cannot imagine going through that. If someone tried to steal my dog, I think I would get violent. Like seriously, I think anyone can agree with that. Like I would lose my mind. There's no way I would put up with that for a second. Thank God somebody was paying attention to that park, because those people very easily could have taken your dog and run off. Like it's a miracle they stepped up and defended you. Seriously. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like I can only imagine how stressful that must have been. I know I would have been so furious with these people if they really tried to steal my dog. But I think in the future, next time, just make sure you have leashes of some kind, because like clearly your dogs need to be on them. But regardless, this should not have happened in the first place. And the fact that they really try to run off with your dogs, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A group of entitled truck drivers think that they can cut through my emergency lane like it's no big deal, resulting in me having to put these grown men in their place in a way that they truly were not expecting. Here's how it happened. So I worked at a guard shack for a distribution center. My job was to direct and process all incoming and outbound traffic and paperwork. Most semi-truck drivers are paid by the mile, so I had some empathy for their time and tried to do my job as efficiently and pleasantly as possible. That being said, when it's busy, it is busy. It took me roughly 2 minutes to process the paperwork and check the information of each truck, which I don't think is too bad, but container haulers are a bit of a different story. They pick up shipping containers at the rail yard, drop them off at the distribution center, and most of the time grab an empty one to take back to the yard. They rinse and they repeat over and over again. So I saw these same guys several times a day, roughly every hour or so while they were fulfilling their quota for the day. They get paid by the hour and they know the drill. Now on each side of the guard shack, there are 2 lanes. 2 lanes for inbound and 2 lanes for outbound. The outbound lane on both sides is usually blocked with a traffic cone because those are emergency lanes. We keep them clear in case there is an emergency on the lot and we need to give quick access to ambulances or fire trucks, which in my 7 years of working there had happened on my shift alone more times than you would think. Every once in a while, a maintenance man or a guard would move those cones for some reason or another, and just like bees to honey, the truckers would try to use those lanes. And you know the whole saying where it's like monkey see, monkey do. And now there's a whole line of trucks I've got to sort and back up, and if I saw it coming, I would have stopped what I was doing and politely directed them to the correct lane and put the cone back in place. If it was an accident because they didn't know any better, no harm, no foul. But when it comes to the shipping container guys, they know better. And like I said, they get paid by the hour. Every now and then, I would be super busy with a long line of trucks to process and a shipping container hauler who has a bobtail, and that basically means no trailer attached to his truck, who would pull into the emergency lane and expect me to open the gate for them so that they could cut the line like it was their own personal express lane. But it's like absolutely not. Not only will allowing that put my job at risk, it will become a fully active lane as all the other truckers will follow suit, which means I can't get and give the paperwork I need to handle over there. I have no access to my computer and printer out there, and if there is an incident, emergency services can't respond in a timely manner. And like I said, I'm already slammed. Running back and forth to the out lanes makes everything take double the amount of time. So when truckers would purposefully pull up there, I would just ignore them. If I saw it in time, I would jump out and place a cone behind them to stop other people from doing the same thing, and then I would prioritize the truckers playing by the rules, all the while ignoring the container guy who is honking, waving his arm, pointing at the gate to get my attention, and only after clearing the lanes would I walk over and explain that they are going to have to back up and get in the proper lane. And if I hadn't caught it in time, I would proceed to direct everyone who was foolish enough to get behind the bozo to back up and get into the proper lane. I'd put the cone back in place and met everyone back at the guard shack with a friendly smile, even if they were just a bit toxic after that. But I guess it wasn't an express lane after all, and you just wasted a good chunk of your time and some of your pride for acting entitled. Okay, I like this story for a few reasons, and just hear me out. For me, it really sheds a light on the people who like work at a job regularly and know the rules, but still somehow feel that the rules don't apply to them. And the shipping container guys absolutely fit the bill. They know they can't go in that lane, but they're like, wait, it's open, let's go through it anyways. And for me, I can't stand working with people like that because it's like, dude, come on, there are rules for a reason. And worst of all, you know the rules and you're still trying to break them. So yeah, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would also be super frustrated dealing with this, especially when it comes to people who absolutely know better. Am I the jerk for not buying one of my friends a ticket to a music festival? All because at the time that I bought them, we were not on speaking terms. Because right now she's pissed off that I didn't think of her, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what went down. Okay, for a bit of context, me and my friend used to be super close. She was my first real friend after moving a lot in elementary school, and that lasted all the way until she met her now ex-boyfriend, who we will call Max for the sake of the story. I really liked them together at first until I noticed that slowly, he was becoming more controlling over her and isolating her from our whole friend group, especially from me. He would tell her that I was a sinful person for having slept with my long-term boyfriend before marriage, which I did once, not that it matters, and that she should no longer hang out with me. She also went around telling the whole school I slept with my boyfriend, which is pretty personal. Nevertheless, I was still trying to be a good friend, so I warned her multiple times, but she said Max was doing this out of love and only wanted what was best for her. But I knew this wasn't right, and I even told her older siblings who agreed with me and her parents who liked him a lot more because Max was seen as a holy man, but nothing could keep them apart, so I slowly stopped hanging out with her because he wouldn't let her, and she just agreed that this was right. Well, fast forward a few months and they've broken up, and my 18th birthday is coming up. For my birthday, I asked for tickets to a music festival and only that. My awesome mom got them a few months prior and said that I could bring whoever I wanted. At the time the tickets were purchased, my friend was not talking to me, and I figured that Max wouldn't want her to come along. However, since Max was out of the picture, she wanted to be friends again and come with me. Mind you, she only knows one of the artists at the festival, but after talking things out with her, I told her that I would be open to being friends again, and I said that she could come with us if she purchased her own ticket. Well, when I said that, this got her pissed because the other two didn't have to pay for their ticket. I then explained that these tickets were bought like 5 months ago and we weren't on speaking terms at that time. She told me that she obviously was not in the right headspace with her controlling ex, and now that she is, she wanted to come along. We ended up going back and forth for a while before she ended up leaving me on red, and that was pretty much the end of it. Later, I found out that she went to our school counseling department and apparently accused me of bullying and excluding her. I explained the situation to the counseling department and they understood and told her this was my choice. Now, since this happened about 7 to 8 months ago, we are no longer on speaking terms, but still I am curious, am I the jerk at all in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, your friend's an idiot. She turned her back on you when you needed her the most and then tries to be like, oh, I'm back, please buy me a music ticket. It's like, no lady, that's not how this works. You literally turned your back on me all because your stupid boyfriend said so. Like she sacrificed an entire friendship just to be with some idiot guy, who, by the way, surprise, surprise, ended up breaking up with her. But for me, the icing on the cake is the fact that she went to the school and is like, oh, she's bullying me. She's excluding me. I can't believe this. Like that really shows you're dealing with a complete idiot, and honestly, you're better off without her. So no, you are not the jerk because this lady sounds incredibly dumb. Today, I got my supervisor demoted, all because I showed up to work in a really snazzy suit, causing him to suddenly become just a normal employee overnight. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm posting this mainly because I'm not a passive-aggressive type of person, but I'm honestly in disbelief that this actually worked. Ever since I started at my job a few months ago, my supervisor, who we will call Josh for the sake of the story, has been constantly micromanaging me. When I'm the subject of criticism, which is often, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt and ask him to clarify. What are your expectations? What specifically should I have done differently? But Josh's responses are always vague, often something to the effect of, oh, just do better. I even had a meeting with Josh in Human Resources to address this, but to no avail. Yesterday, Josh comes to my desk to tell me that I need to dress better. Now, I work at a small company, and the vibe is usually casual. A not insignificant number of people come to work wearing jeans, hoodies, t-shirts, and or baseball caps. I have never worn a hat to work, and I make a point of wearing a button-up shirt with a collar every single day. But this particular day, I was wearing a long-sleeve button-up flannel, chino pants, and Adidas Gazelles. Other days, I wear loafers and dress shirts that are tucked in. So I asked Josh to clarify. Should I be wearing dress shoes or a dress shirt? Does it need to be tucked in? What specifically do you want me to change? Well, Josh tells me I just need to dress better and that I should talk to Human Resources for clarification. So I go and do just that and I ask what the dress code is. And in response, I just get a standard answer. Pants with closed-toe shoes, no sleeveless shirts, etc. I then ask, have I ever worn anything to work that poses a problem problem, and human resources says no, you're totally fine. Well, because I'm mad and because my repeated efforts to resolve this kind of problem have gone unheeded, I decided that I need to be a little bit petty. So today I showed up to work in a full suit. It's one I keep for events like weddings, so it's fitted and I look really sharp in it. It's also wildly and conspicuously overdressed for the office I work in. I had several interactions with people coming to my desk to comment on my outfit and ask what the occasion was. When anyone asked me, I told them that I had been told to dress better, and this was always met with disbelief. Two people even said they liked the way I dress normally. When anyone asked me who the order came from, again, only if they asked, I told them that it came from Josh. Now, I was expecting to pull my little stunt for a week just to prove a point, and then go back to wearing what I had been wearing before. Word then got around the office fast, apparently, because the CEO, namely Josh's direct boss, came to my desk later in the day to tell me I would be reporting to him now, and that he would be having a talk with Josh about this and other issues. It's important to know that I was Josh's only underling, so he effectively went from being a supervisor to just a regular employee. I'm now on a bit of a high, and I think I'm gonna come to work tomorrow wearing a different one of my flannels. Dude, I love this so much because my god, Josh is an idiot. All he had to do was be more specific about what he wanted you to wear, and all of this could have been avoided. But now he got demoted, and honestly, that is so satisfying. Like, I really love that. So good for you for making this happen, because from the sounds of it, it seems like Josh kinda needed this to happen, as I don't think he was cut out to be a supervisor in the slightest. My boyfriend cheated on me while he was on vacation and literally ruined our relationship. So I decided to get some revenge by moving in with his family and turning all of them against him. And I'm honestly so satisfied with the way things went down. Here's what happened. So when I was around 19 or 20 years old, adulting had come early. I was living alone and self-supporting for 2 years by then. It wasn't great, as I was living in some really awful bedsits, and I had a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs to remain solvent. Well, a handsome acquaintance caught my eye, but I was surrounded by gorgeous friends who all fancied him. He was good looking, but it turned out that I was his type, and I fell hard and fast. I really admired him too. He was only 4 years older than me, he had a trade and a good job, and had bought his own flat. From the start, he let me know that he and his friends had booked and planned a trip, literally halfway across the world for 4 months at the end of that year. I was miserable thinking about it, but happy he was going on this longed-for experience. In the meantime, I was introduced to his family and got along well. The younger brother and sister live with mom, and I fit right in. His mom got me a part-time job with her, starting when he left the country, and we went on holiday together while he was away. Now, this was before mobile phones, so I waited on postcards and the odd call from a phone box that only lasted a minute. All seemed to be going well until about 2.5 months into his trip. He called and said that he had missed me too much and was coming home. I was delighted, but I thought it was strange, as it seemed completely out of nowhere. He then returns, but after a few days, he's behaving strangely. Well, long story short, he cheated on me while he was away and had been in contact with her ever since his return. He wanted to try dating her, and we were just completely over. And while I was devastated, I did hide it well. I remained in contact with his family, and I saw his mom at our part-time job. 2 weeks later, my landlord gave me notice as the building was being sold, and I shared this with his mom. She then asked if I wanted to rent her spare bedroom. The rent would be helpful, and we all enjoyed each other's company, and I needed somewhere to live. I also had a devilish thought about how uncomfortable it would be for my ex to literally bring his new girlfriend to meet his family with me there. So you know what? I moved in, and he found out literally after the fact, and trust me, he was not happy. But it was made worse at Christmas when my dad and I were invited to their family Christmas dinner. He eventually lost his mind and gave them an ultimatum, either him or me. And you know what? They kindly chose me, as I was their roommate, and as I had no problem sharing a table with him. Christmas was funny as he sulked, drank, and disappeared to call his angry girlfriend. She, of course, was unhappy that he was having dinner with me and was giving him grief, which led to them having an argument and then brought on more sulking and drinking. By the time my dad had gone home and the others had gone to bed, he was feeling no pain and decided to chance his luck with me. But I just laughed at him and I told him that I wasn't interested. He then started complaining that I was making his life miserable and that this was his family and not mine. So I told him that I was going to be living there for at least a full year, and that, you know what? My plan all along was to cause him pain, grief, and inconvenience, as he wouldn't be able to bring his affair partner to the family home. I then left the room with a parting comment, telling him that maybe he would think twice before cheating in the future, because payback is definitely going to suck. Okay, I love this story so much. Like, seriously, good for you for getting this kind of revenge. This guy absolutely deserves it. He went on vacation to cheat on you. Like, that is such a low thing to do. And then he tries to act like, oh, you guys need to choose between her or me. And it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna choose her. Yeah, she's our roommate, but I bet the underlying thing is like, yeah, well, you're a cheater, so we're not gonna make you any kind of priority. And And it's honestly really cool to see that your ex's family is really cool with you, even going as far as offering you like a place to stay and a room to rent. Like, that's really cool in my opinion. So overall, this is some fantastic payback, and I love the fact that you told him this was your plan all along, because the way he wronged you, in my opinion, deserves to be punished. My toxic entitled bosses mess around with me and my job by nearly trying to get me in trouble for something I had permission for. So I decided to get some revenge by quitting on the spot and also exposing them for all the illegal things that they were doing behind the scenes. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, and to start things out, I am a certified teacher with a master level recognition from my state. This equates to basically being a good teacher that goes above and beyond, but also comes with perks including a pretty nice yearly bonus and getting to bypass certain paperwork requirements. And trust me, this will be important later on. I work for a fairly large and relatively decent charter school system, all for about 10 years. I taught world geography and world cultures and was pretty well liked by my students, mostly because I gave as good as grades as I got, but also focused on having a fun and interesting class rather than meeting metrics. At the district level, they love me because I wrote a lot of my own curriculum and exceeded metrics, and they placed me in multiple district positions, including curriculum writing, training, and subject leadership, all of which came with extra pay. However, the principal absolutely hated me. He was deeply sexist, even more deeply incompetent, and did not know how to deal with someone like me who was unwilling to put up with either of those things. I have a business background, and I learned how to write professionally, where I basically tell them to get lost in truly satisfying ways. During my time working there, I became the person who would convey staff complaints about many things, including things like communication, safety, salary, non-contract demands, etc. We had a lot of issues, especially since our state makes it pretty hard to unionize, and they were constantly trying to get away with illegal stuff. Obviously, this made my principal and some of the other admins hate me, but they couldn't discipline me since I always wrote with professional language, cited educational codes, and included evidence. In addition, also to not actually doing anything wrong outside of calling them on their stuff. Furthermore, my students did well, and both they and the parents generally liked me. Add to that the fact that the district liked me, and I was basically an annoyance that they could do nothing about, including refusing to renew my contract. Well, that is until the end of the 2022 school year. At this point, we were told that the principal was leaving, but was being replaced by one of the other admins who had a bad reputation throughout the district. I decided to give them a chance though, and hope that some of the illegal and awful comments would stop, but spoiler alert, unfortunately it didn't. This announcement was then followed by them telling me that they were moving my grade levels from 6th grade to 9th grade on level and 10th grade AP. This would mean a massive change in grade, having to learn 2 new curriculums, and having to become AP certified. Plus all of those district positions, yeah, they were tied to my grade level, which is why they couldn't move me before, so I would effectively be losing about $6,000 a year. They explained that this had to happen because they needed to use my ability to bypass paperwork that came with being a master level teacher, and for reasons related to post-COVID education. When my district level contacts found out, they were pissed off but couldn't do anything about it because it was a valid change and saved the district money with the bypass. So I decided to bite the bullet and just do it, partially because it meant teaching students I'd had before, which is a huge help, and because I live in a state that is actively passing laws to prevent history teachers like me from existing, and that was not a fight I wanted to get into. So the fall of 2022 rolls around, and I go full force into it, get a good relationship with my students, and try to get along with all of the new administration. Except they basically immediately try to get me to commit fraud, and as I found out, a lot of the communication being sent by my old principal was actually written by the new one. But you know what? I love my students, so I tried to make it work. But the inciting incident that finally caused me to snap actually didn't have to do with teaching. Instead, it was my child. At the time, they were taking in-person classes at the community college about 10 minutes away from my campus, and they only had a driving permit as my city doesn't have public transportation. I asked one of the admins if it would be okay if they came to school with me each morning, hung out for an hour, and then I would take them to campus during my off period. They said it was okay, especially as my child has actually been a volunteer on campus for many years. Well, 3 weeks into this arrangement, I get an email that my child is being detained in the front lobby and that I needed to take them home. Now, what's the reason, you might be asking? They were quietly doing their homework in the teacher's lounge, and Professor Karen didn't like that. I told them that they could let me wait 20 minutes to take my child when the campus opened up, or get a substitute for the day. They told me to wait and check my child inappropriately next time. 2 days later, I get called into the principal's office for a formal meeting. When I get there, the entire admin team is waiting, and there are even papers ready for me to sign. To say they look smug at finally being able to write me up is an an understatement. And the reason for all of this is because I brought my child onto campus. At first, I was genuinely confused because staff regularly brought their children to campus, especially since most of our children went to different schools that didn't even have the same holiday schedule. It had never been a problem, but it was now. So I was going to need to sign a written reprimand for not following a procedure that hadn't even been put into place yet. But that wasn't even the stupidest part. You see, the principal had decided that I was bringing my child to campus all on my own. When I finally interrupted them and pointed to the admin I had gotten permission from, the principal looked startled. They had never even communicated, and I was getting disciplined for something I had permission to do, which the admin confirmed during the meeting. Suddenly, I was being told, oh, never mind about the write-up, but that I needed to find a new plan for my child's getting to school. As I left, I made a comment about maybe needing to find a new job instead, which gave them a moment of panic. Now, being a reasonable adult, I went home to discuss it with my husband, and we both agreed it was time for me to go. Between the yearly bonus and the time worked but as of yet paid, due to the way teacher salaries work, I could quit and still get close to $30,000, enough to give me time to find another job. My husband is amazing and, just like myself, is very petty, so we both just decided to wait. 2 weeks from the date in question, we were having a tutorial weekend on campus. This meant that I could enter without anybody knowing unless they checked the cameras. So that weekend, while the building was opened, my husband and I emptied my classroom. And if you've been a teacher, you can appreciate the amount of crap that I've accumulated over 10 years. I had taken some less obvious things home during those weeks, but my classroom went from the most poster TV set looking room to a wasteland in literally an hour. Many of the things that made the room usable were mine too, so that was even more fun. More hilariously, the following Monday was a campus training day, so I went and got paid one more day to mess around with my coworkers, which included a couple of people who knew about the plan and were so excited. On Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I emailed my resignation, as well as a still professional list of grievances, including many specific critiques of the admin and an outright statement of many of the illegal things they were doing. And after that, I went right back to sleep. From what my colleagues told me, it was an absolute mess. It took them 30 minutes to realize that my first period class didn't have a teacher. By that time, the other members of my department, whom I kindly emailed, had covertly sent it to all the other teachers on campus. By the end of the day, I heard that one of my coworkers had read it to the entire class that knew me, and that several parents had read it too. I had given my colleagues permission to give one of my emails to my students because I did love them, and by the end of the day, my inbox was filled with some heartwarming notes and promises to carry my legend forward. And even to this day, I keep in contact with several students until they got a new teacher so they don't fail their AP exams. It took the campus 3 months to find a replacement. Part of this was because they had to find someone with the same qualifications, you know, that paperwork bypass, but they simply couldn't do it, and eventually just had to hire the new teacher and an additional tutor. But outside of that, some of my information is inconsistent. I was told that there were parent complaints and questions about if what I had said was true. One of the other teachers decided to carry on my torch and started pushing back on that awful place. And finally, since I also just happened to send the email to the superintendent, the new principal was under a lot of scrutiny for some of the illegal and against district policies that they had started enacting, and strangely enough, that principal was asked to leave the campus at the end of the year. The new principal is actually someone I worked with before and is apparently doing great things for the campus, so that is really good. I still occasionally get emails telling me that the students miss me, and I plan to go visit the campus soon to give other teachers some of my supplies. But for the most part, things have quieted down now, which in my opinion is what's best for the students in the end. Oh man, I love the fact that you had them right by the throat when you said, oh, maybe it's time for me to find another job, because they knew for a fact they screwed around and now they're gonna find out. This story is beautiful. I'm so happy you got back at these people, and I'm really happy that you exposed the illegal crap that they were doing. Because let's think about it for a second. No one's gonna put their reputation and their job on the line to quit a place and be like, oh yeah, there's also illegal stuff going on, especially someone with a good reputation like you. So the fact that you whistle blew that information and people started to catch on and be like, wait a second, something sketchy is going on, like that makes you a hero in my opinion, and I'm so glad that you did this. So good for you for taking down this corrupt system, because these people absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My best friend has been lying to my face for 7 years, as he has secretly been in love with me this entire time. And right now, I feel like I'm in some stupid weird soap opera, and I honestly have no clue how to end this friendship. Here's what happened. I'm honestly struggling with trying to figure out where to start with this, so I guess I'll just begin with some some context. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I've been friends with my friend who we will call Blake for about 10 years now. He's the same age as me, and we met when I was traveling for a new job out of state, and I kid you not, immediately we became best friends in the week that I was there. We had the same interests, we had great energy and conversation, we just clicked right away. We were friends for nearly 2 years before trying the dating thing. It lasted 3 months, and trust me, this will be important later on, during which Blake did not treat me well due to unresolved issues from prior relationships. Before I could end it, he decided to end it himself, as he had feelings for someone else. Fine with me, we were clearly better as friends. I took some space because he hadn't been treating me well. He got into therapy and apologized for being awful, and was willing to put in the work to regain my trust for our friendship, which he did consistently over the next 8 years. Fast forward to now, and I'm now happily married to my wonderful husband, who we will call Cam. He's 28 years old, we've been together for 6 years, and married now for 2. Blake and I are also still best friends. He and his ex, after our brief dating stint, broke up, and he is now with a wonderful woman who we will call Kaylee for almost 2 years now. They also started dating a few months prior to my wedding, and this also will be important. Kaylee and I are also good friends, and she is the sweetest person. Blake also lives in the same city as me now after his mother passed away, since he moved down here for a better support network, with his girlfriend moving in about 9 months ago. Well, for the past 6 months or so, things have been very strained with Blake. My husband is very introverted, and Blake started voicing frustration about his inability to be closer friends with Cam, and feeling like he bothers Cam. He and I also started having weird arguments, kind of these subtle belittling comments that came out of nowhere. Then my husband and I came over for a game night for Blake's birthday 3 months ago, during which Blake picked fights with me about very weird things. For example, my career path and how I'm going about it wrong, making comments like, "I guess you want to stunt yourself in life. You could do it that way," as well as a bunch of other stuff. Well, both Cam and I were caught very off guard, and after several attempts to shut it down, we made excuses and we headed home. Later on, Blake proceeded to send me a text message asking if I was okay because the vibes felt off, to which I was like, no kidding, and then I explained my issue. He then decided to reply with an email, and this was 8 long paragraphs about how he felt his experience and knowledge was being diminished in our discussion, how he felt ganged up on when Cam would defend my side, and how he felt that he couldn't be himself around me and Cam anymore. He also made comments voicing that he didn't feel like he could trust me because I tell Cam everything, which is not true. I always ask before sharing, unless it's something dangerous or a moral issue. And he thinks that I'm unhealthily codependent on Cam because whenever Blake and I hang out one-on-one, I'm always calling Cam to let him know how late I'm gonna be out for, or to check if I'm cool to pick up takeout. But it's like we're married with joint finances. What's the problem here? Well, I replied trying to clarify my end, as well as understand where the ever-loving crap this was coming from, because no matter how many times I tried, he just kept going in circles. The emailing back and forth, during which he demanded we not meet up till this was resolved, lasted till about 2 weeks ago, when I said I needed time to think about how to reply next. About a month ago, I got into therapy because it was seriously messing with my head and making me feel like I was a problem, and like I couldn't talk to anyone about this because we share much of our support system. I finally broke down to my sister when she came over to see why I hadn't been answering her, or really anyone lately. She is also friends with Blake through me. I let her read the emails and she got pretty ticked off on my behalf, and then proceeded to drop a bombshell on me and Cam. Blake is apparently still in love with me and hates Cam's guts. Apparently, when she drove to pick up Blake out of state for our wedding, as he was a groomsman, he confided in her and her husband that he didn't agree with the wedding and wished that I would break up with Cam and give him another chance, that we're soulmates and Cam isn't the one for me. Blake has heard me talk since day one about how happy Cam makes me and how safe and loved I feel with him, but my sister shut it down, and even better, Blake proceeded to do the same thing when she drove him back home after our wedding. He ended off saying he just needed some time, so my sister kept her mouth shut because she knew that he's my best friend and hoped that she would trust him to resolve it over time since he lived far away. Blake then moved near me about a year ago, and Kaylee moved in the August afterwards. My husband and I's wedding anniversary is in October, and apparently Blake called my sister's husband to again confide that he's still in love with me and wishes that I would divorce Cam because he would be a better husband to me. And this is literally while living with Kaylee, who he's told me is his soulmate. And by the way, this was about when all the stress started, so she never found a good moment to bring it up. Well, as icing on the cake, Kaylee and I have been keeping up via text messaging through all of this, you know, again, because we're friends. And during the past few weeks, I learned some odd things. Kaylee got new piercings, reportedly encouraged by Blake to do so because he thought that she would look so cute. It's a double nose piercing and a septum, which possibly coincidentally, Blake took me to get as a post-wedding gift 2 years ago. Also, Blake apparently has a beef with the month of August, and so he's decided that their anniversary will be in October. The reason he gave us was because it's spooky month, and Cam and I started dating and got married that month. I also, at my sister's prompt, went back and checked when Blake and I broke up, and that was on August 2017. Again, possibly coincidental, but it feels very odd, as I don't know why else he would have an issue with that month. It's also worth noting that Blake had another relationship fall apart because the girl was outright convinced Blake was cheating on her with me to the point of blasting me for weeks as some homewrecker. Cam and I always chalked it up to her insecurity, but now I'm wondering if she was just watching Blake carry on some weird one-sided emotional affair. I love my husband more than words can say, and he makes me happier than anyone I've ever met. He's my ultimate best friend. Learning all this has made me feel so gross and like a horrible wife, though Cam has been wonderfully supportive and doesn't blame me at all. All this to say, I'm ending our friendship, but I have no clue how. I feel like I have to tell Kaylee, as this has all happened during the relationship and living together, and the woman deserves the world. But also, I recognize that I have no real proof beyond spoken accounts and besides the weird emails. In the end, it sounds like some weird conspiracy theory or soap opera. My therapist is on vacation, so I'm on my own after learning all of this. I'm also realizing just how manipulative Blake has been for years given this context, and already feel shaky about confronting him given my serious confrontation anxiety, which he knows about and could easily try to exploit. I'm realizing more and more that he has massive control issues that I dismissed as anxiety for years, and the fact that he lives so close now fills me with dread rather than joy. I want to come out of this with no regrets, knowing that I stood up for myself and that I put a decisive end to this. I want Blake to know his actions and creepy ulterior motives are the reasons that our decade-long friendship is over. I've never ended a friendship myself, as I am a bit introverted as well, and this is basically friend breakup on steroids. How do I break this lunacy to Kaylee in a way that sounds remotely believable given the front that Blake has built up? I also would love some advice on how to go about telling Blake I know everything and that we are absolutely done, because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this is some crazy behavior because I can't honestly think of a situation where this would ever be remotely okay. Because think about it, this guy's been lying to the original poster for years. Like, we're talking almost a decade. In fact, they're in a relationship and this is how they feel. Now, I don't blame the sister for not saying something sooner, but also I kind of wish they had said something much sooner. Like, I don't know, after the wedding or something like that. I understand that the original poster was really stressed out and all that. Like, I totally get it, and I think that's very valid. But this easily could have been figured out so much sooner if the sister said something. But regardless, this is absolutely disgusting, and I seriously just can't imagine going through something like that. So in my opinion, I know if I was in your shoes, I would not only be direct, but I would also corroborate with my sister and be like, listen, you need to go in on this with me because I need some backup here. Because you can guarantee Blake's gonna lie through his teeth and be like, I never said that, that's a lie. So for me, I would absolutely get the sister and their husband on board and be like, guys, I need help with this is massive. Not to mention your husband helping out, who by the way sounds lovely, and any problems Blake has with that guy, in my opinion, are just completely stupid. So I really hope this works out for you and your husband in your favor, because this kind of behavior from Blake is incredibly creepy, and I really think that the both of you deserve some peace, especially away from a friend who's clearly been lying to you for several years. Am I the jerk for kicking my jobless friend out of my house, who said she was going to stay at my house for a few days, but ended up extending that into a 3-week stay? Because right now she is very hurt, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been friends with my college roommate for about 6 years now. We were super close in school, but grew apart after graduation. She moved across the country, and we mostly kept in touch through social media. Last month, she messaged me saying that she was going through a rough patch. She lost her job and her boyfriend dumped her, etc., and wanted to visit for a few days to clear her head. And you know what? I felt bad, so I said yes. Well, those few days turned into 3 weeks. She's been sleeping on my couch, eating my food, using my stuff, and not contributing anything. I work from home, and she's constantly interrupting my workday with her drama. When I suggested maybe it's time for her to look for a ticket home, she burst into tears saying that she has nowhere else to go, and I'm her only support system. Well, yesterday, I had an important Zoom meeting and specifically asked her to be quiet for 1 hour, and halfway through, she starts blasting music and FaceTiming someone in the living room. My boss definitely heard, and I was mortified. That night, I finally snapped and I told her she needed to leave by the end of the week. I even offered to help buy her plane ticket. She called me heartless and said a real friend would support her no matter what. She's also been posting vague stuff on social media about finding out who your true friends are during hard times. And you know what? I feel guilty because she is going going through a lot, but I'm also exhausted from the constant emotional labor and the lack of boundaries. My apartment is tiny and I never signed up to be someone's indefinite crash pad and therapist. So am I the jerk for kicking my friend out when she was down on her luck? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say something that might seem really mean, but no, you are not the jerk. She took advantage of your free space and instead of getting back on her feet, she stayed there for 3 weeks. That's way too long. She's gotta figure her life out and you did not sign up to basically facilitate that. And sure, your friend's gonna be pissed off and she's gonna be like, wow, you're not a real friend. Real friends would be with me no matter what. They would help me out through the hard times. But when she's literally doing nothing to help out you and help out your time where you're trying to work and make a living, like that in my opinion shows that she's not actually looking for you to help her out during the hard times. If anything, it seems like she's running from her problems, and the best thing you can do is say, listen, you gotta get up on your feet and move forward. So maybe this is one of those like tough love moments or whatever, but seriously, she needs to figure this out. So no, you're not the jerk for kicking her out because in my opinion, it's time for her to move on and get going, because staying at your house is not gonna solve a single thing in her life. My entitled father forces me to change the locks on my room after he constantly barges in without asking and without knocking first, as he has literally walked in on me changing and even taking a shower, claiming that because my room is messy, he has every right to barge in there and do whatever he wants. And now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm a 22-year-old female, and when I was 14 years old, my dad took my room key and lost it. He never apologized and thought it was fine because I never keep my room clean and people should see it. This was the condition I was living with until I moved in with my boyfriend when I was about 20 years old. Said boyfriend and I broke up around January and I had to move back home. I still am quite messy and I'm trying to be better. And since I still have a ton of stuff and I just don't know where to put it, I keep them in bags in my room. It's loaded right now and I've been sleeping in another room on the couch until my new bed arrives. So here's where all the issues really started. My dad, even after numerous attempts of asking him not to, never knocks. He just bursts open the door whenever. He once even did it while I was changing and I was still in my underwear. I told my mom about it and asked her to talk to him since he won't stop. And now he knocks once and just opens the door, even if I say no or ask him to wait. Last week he started going into my room while I was away or taking a shower and letting up the electrical blinds. My room faces the terrace and pretty much everybody can see through the windows and the doors. During spring and summer, a lot of my parents' friends come over all the time, so I chose to keep them down so nobody can see me change or into my room in general. This is nothing new. I've been doing this since I got that room, and my sister did it before me. So now I've been in a week-long battle of telling him to stop, with him saying that as long as my room is messy, the blinds stay up, and me explaining my problem and him just ignoring me. I've told him repeatedly that if he could make some space in the attic, I would be more than happy to get rid of all of the bags, but it's full of his stuff. I am just as annoyed by the messiness as the next guy, and there's no place to put anything. This weekend, my dad went on some vacation with his friends, and I decided to change the locks and lock the door. When he came home today, the first thing he did was go into the back to my room, but it was locked. When he saw me, he immediately screamed at me and had a huge meltdown. He said that I had no right to do that and that I had to change the lock this instant. I calmly told him that since he can't respect my privacy, I just won't be doing that. I also said that if he was willing to leave my room alone and start knocking, I just wouldn't mind changing them back. Right now, I can't afford to move out because of the high rent prices in my town, and all my savings got blown by my ex. If I could, I would be out in a second at this point. But now he went to a voluntary social group that we're both a part of and told them all about it. I'm super mad because it's literally nobody's business, and these are my friends, not his, which just makes this worse in my opinion. And while some of them sided with me, others think that I had no right to change the locks, but they get why I did. He makes me feel like a jerk, and honestly, he called me one more than once. So truly, am I at fault here? Am I the jerk for locking my door? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, the way your dad's acting is super intrusive. Like, this is so inappropriate, it's not even funny. The original poster is 22 years old. Their dad has no business barging into your room, especially when you're changing. And what's the deal with him pulling up the blinds when you're literally like coming out of the shower or changing or doing anything else private? Like, that is really inappropriate, and you have every right to privacy. And honestly, I think the fact that you did change your locks and make a statement that way, in my opinion, shows that no, you're not okay with this, and you're not gonna put up with this for another second. Because guess what? You shouldn't have to. You should not have to walk on eggshells and be like, okay, is he gonna barge in my room today or not? So in my opinion, if you're paying rent and you're doing everything you need to do to like be a member of the household, then he has no right to barge into your room. Even if you were living there rent-free, he still shouldn't be doing that because because that's incredibly intrusive. That is violating and so gross it's not even funny. So truly, I hope you're able to move out sooner than later because your dad sounds like a massive piece of garbage. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband and I always fight when it comes to chores, all because he's been assigned to take care of the household needs, as he literally doesn't have a job right now. And now I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been married to my husband for 2 years now, and we've been together for around 7. Initially, we were both working and both hard workers. I usually came back home late from doing 3,000 things, as I lived alone, so I also managed the rest of the survival stuff, of course. And my husband, who lived with his parents, did regular overtime for no reason, but he liked his job so much. And the both of us specialize in language work. At the start of our marriage, my husband lost his job. It came out of nowhere as he was performing well, and it took a toll on him emotionally, but I reassured him that everything would be fine since he's actually good at what he does. So we came up with this agreement. He would pick up the majority of the housework while looking for a new job, and I'd focus on work with the exception of things that I prefer to manage myself because I'm more organized and less forgetful. Stuff like keeping track of the bills, scheduling appointments, and doing the laundry, since my clothes need an amount of care I don't want to dump on him. Unfortunately, this didn't work out well from the start. My husband cooks, which is great, but aside from that, he does the bare minimum not to be outright unsanitary. He washes the dishes, tosses the trash, uses the robot to vacuum the floor, and puts his dirty clothing in the dedicated laundry area, but honestly, that's it. He cleans surfaces like the sink or the furniture whenever I beg him to do it, like after a month or two, and constantly leaves stuff on tables or around the house without putting it away. And this creates mess and dust. Initially, I kept asking him to do things, but I stopped recently because I thought that maybe I was micromanaging him. And this is just an example of what happened. He left a bag with a piece of clothing he needed to take to the mender on a chair for 2 months, up to the point that when I asked him if I should take it instead, he didn't even remember where he had put it, even though it's literally in plain view in the living room. I had conversations with him about this, and he insists that he can't focus on anything else while he's stressed out looking for a job. I understand his feelings, so I told him to let me know if he wants to change the division of labor, since I'd rather know up front that I need to do something so I can schedule it in my day directly, rather than having the false reassurance that it'll get done just to find out that it's still there weeks or months later. Well, to this, he tells me not to worry and to leave it to him. This has all come to a head recently because my job has suddenly become more demanding. I was usually able to do some more things around the house, whether he asked me for help or not, but for the past few months, I've barely had any time to exist outside of work. My company's most important client has started multiple lengthy, specialized projects at the same time, with barely meetable deadlines even with a full team. And what's worse is we're 2 people short. My company doesn't want to say no to the client, and I don't want to say no to the company since my job is otherwise great. Plus, I get better paid than 90% of jobs in my industry, and this is the only money that's keeping me and my husband afloat. So I've been literally working for 3 people non-stop. I regularly go to sleep with a headache, wake up with a headache, and I feel back pain. My fingers have started twitching like a pre-industrial revolution factory worker. I've still been managing admin tasks at home, but I honestly haven't had the physical or emotional strength to tidy up the tables and everything else. I don't even have it in me to talk to my friends most days anymore. During this time, whenever it's been the weekend or a bank holiday, we have fought, and somehow I started. I wake up without being too busy to care what's going on, so I look around and I still see items and bags that were there weeks before. So then I get upset, and I ask him why he can't fulfill his end of the bargain as I do. Yesterday, he told me the following: "If I did what you do, I'd be able to do more and faster. You just have to sit and type. It's not the same." And I know this may seem absurd, but I could divorce over this. I've been feeling so aggressively angry all of last night, but while typing this, I realized that if it were anyone else, I would just calmly tell them to leave. Yes, if I turn my brain off and forget adulting, I still love my husband. He knows a lot, he's interesting to talk to, he's very beautiful, and I enjoy spending time together. But as soon as I look around at our life, I feel like an ATM. And this isn't the first time that he's implied that my job is easier, and I'm tired of hearing it when I know that I'm breaking my back much harder than a dude dusting shelves for an hour every month. Now, he claims that he didn't mean it as a comparison, that he just wanted to say that my job is easier in a vacuum. But even then, what does it even mean? And why should it be relevant to him not doing the stuff we agreed he would anyways? So seriously, does this sound like we're both being unreasonable? Is this a miscommunication issue? Should I find another job at the expense of being poor and even worse off? I don't know what to say anymore, and I'm just feeling tired and I want things to work out without without constantly fighting over something? What should I do? Okay, the way your husband's acting, in my opinion, is insane. You mean to tell me that he's sitting there and he can't honestly be like, okay, let me clean up and make things really nice for my wife when she comes home? Like, this guy hasn't worked for 2 years. He literally doesn't have a job, and he's trying to sit there and be like, man, if I was doing what you were doing, my life would be so easy. It's so easy what you do. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about right now? This is some crazy talk. It is not that hard to clean up and make sure it's clean, especially when you have no job. The original poster's right. This guy's out of his mind delusional. So no, you're not at fault here. You're definitely not the jerk for trying to figure this out. And hopefully something does get figured out, because you're under a lot of stress and your husband is absolutely not helping. Am I the jerk for not crying about my 15-year-old nephew going to juvenile hall? Because right now my mom's pissed off at me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom sent me a screenshot this morning of text messages between her and my sister. We live down south now and they're up on the East Coast. We found out yesterday that my sister had to pick up my 15-year-old nephew from the police station for getting caught at a party with a self-defense projectile item that he definitely is not old enough to have, if you know what I mean. And trust me, I wish I could say exactly what it is, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. It's important to note that his fingerprints are on it and he has pictures on his phone with it. And as a result, he was put on probation. All he cared about was getting his phone back from the cops, but today's update is that the police took him to juvie. In November of 2023, my nephew's dad passed away, and although him and my sister were not together, they were still best friends since their teens, and it's been hard on everyone. He's been smoking the bud, by the way, with my sister's permission while nobody else approves of this. He's been skipping school, will turn off his location and still not answer the phone, and constantly tried to scam everyone out of money by threatening to be on the streets to get it instead. He also posts pictures on social media with gang-related poses. My dad and my brother should be there for him, even though they aren't the best examples of men, but they've stayed out of jail. There aren't really any other men who are a positive example for him to follow either, like a mentor. Being long distance, there's only so much my mom and I can do but talk to him about his choices and where they're leading him. I feel like I've done everything I can to support them without putting myself out, including financially. My initial reply was this: that's the consequences of his actions. My nephew and my sister are gonna learn one way or another. My mom then came back at me and said that it's my sister's fault. She's the parent and her job is to guide him and protect him, and she did not. She also said that she let him loose on the streets to do whatever. She then said to me, must be nice to not be affected by it though. Now in my drafts, I said, I don't know what you want me to say, since I've tried talking to the both of them, because at this point, nobody has been listening. So unfortunately, I'm not surprised it got this far. I'm not gonna stress myself out over something I can't fix. Now, I wanna send it, but I feel like maybe I'm being too cold. So truly, am I being the jerk for not being so emotionally affected? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. This is so dumb. These people seriously did this to themselves, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I have to disagree with your mom. This absolutely falls on your nephew's shoulders just as much as it falls on your sister's. Yes, your sister should have been watching her kid more, but that 15-year-old nephew literally knew what they were doing, and they got themselves into this mess. I don't care what anybody else says. So no, you're not the jerk for trying to speak reality to the situation, even if your mom is still upset by your reaction. Am I the jerk for telling a guy at my gym that he's a creepy weirdo and that he needs to start changing somewhere else? Because right now, I'm still pretty pissed off and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so at the gym I go to, the men's and women's locker room entrances are side by side. The women's door stays shut, but typically the men's side stays open, simply because the actual changing area is tucked away. There are lockers by the door, but no one uses them because they are far from where people change, and people can easily see you if you use one of those front lockers and the door's open. There is this one guy I see most days that changes and gets fully naked and uses the lockers by the door. He's the only person I've ever seen use those lockers, and obviously the only person I've seen change there. I've never cared too much, and I just thought that he was weird. Well, that is until yesterday, when my girlfriend told me as she was entering the women's locker room, she made eye contact with that guy since the door was open and he was practically standing in the doorway. And while technically he was in the locker room, he was also fully naked and he smiled and waved at her. I immediately went to the locker room and I got pretty pissed off at him, and I told him to stop using those lockers, you creep. We exchanged some words, but it boiled down to him saying that he can change wherever he wants, with me saying, sure, that's right, but why are you doing it in front of the door? He then reported me, and I was told he has been brought to their attention before, but since he is at a locker and in the locker room, they can't really tell him to stop, and that I should just let it be and that there is no reason to be angry. Now, one important detail, this is in a European country that is fine with nudity, and you know what, so am I, but not to the point where he's basically flashing women going into their space. So am I the jerk for calling this guy out? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you did the right thing by calling him out because this is incredibly creepy. creepy. Seriously, why are there lockers right at the front of the entrance? And why does the door not close? This creepy weirdo found a loophole to be a creep, plain and simple. He knows he can stand there nude and naked and not get in any trouble because technically he's in the locker room. And that is disgusting. That seriously is so messed up, and it's honestly so disturbing that the people working there wouldn't try to enforce that. Because your girlfriend didn't consent to seeing this guy naked. Like, that really is messed up that it's being forced upon you as you're walking in to get a workout. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This guy's being a weirdo, and in my opinion, this is something that absolutely needs to be fixed. Would I be the jerk for not attending a wedding where my wife was excluded from the bachelorette party? Because right now I'm still very pissed off about this and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, honestly, my wife and I are almost always excluded from family events or outings in one way or another. My wife is literally the sweetest woman on the earth. She puts up with me and has always been incredibly kind and patient as long as I've known her. We flew into town from out of state for her brother's wedding this Friday, and last night we had over her soon-to-be sister-in-law, all of her siblings that were able to make it, and her other brother's fiance. That other fiance and her two sisters were talking about going to Target tomorrow so that they could buy the new sister-in-law a gift for her bachelorette party on Thursday. And when we heard that, we were shocked. We came from out of state, and we assumed that since we hadn't heard anything, that she had already had it before we got there, which would have been fine and understandable. But now it turns out that my wife and his older sister were not invited, but the other two sisters, as well as the other brother's fiance, are all going. Not a word has been said to my wife about her being invited. When it got brought up, the two sisters acted like they got caught or something like that. They didn't offer any consoling words and changed the subject to my wife's health and how her kidneys are getting worse. So what do you think? Am I overreacting to not going to the wedding at all? Tell off my in-laws for being jerks to my wife her whole life? And possibly stop coming to family events? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, the fact that this is definitely your in-laws and not your immediate family, in my opinion, is the only reason why I would be so hesitant in saying something. The last thing you want to do is put your foot in your mouth for people that you are not even related to, because based on the way these people act, I guarantee you they will never let you live that down. And that just doesn't seem fair to you at all. So no, you wouldn't really be the jerk for like telling them off and being like, okay, we're never coming back. But also, it would not benefit you in the slightest. And if I was in your shoes, I would be discussing this with my wife first before I did anything. I love my boyfriend and I don't want to leave him, but he's going to jail soon and I think this is my only way out. And I'm honestly so confused, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. I'm 32 years old and he is 30. He was my first love, the first man I gave myself to emotionally and physically. When things are good, they are really good. He is sweet, loving, affectionate, and there are moments where it feels like no one could ever love me the way that he does. But there have always been red flags that I've tried to overlook. When we argue, he'll say things like, I'll message another girl or I'm going on a night out, and later take it back saying that he didn't mean it. He also won't let me see his phone, and it's not that I want to snoop on it, but it feels like a trust issue. And when I'm upset or crying, he just goes cold. It's like my pain doesn't affect him at all in those moments. Now, I really love him and I don't want to leave him. This relationship is deeply emotional, and I've been holding on for so long hoping he'd grow or things would shift. But now he's going to jail, and I won't get into the details unless needed, but for the sake of it, he's a street pharmacist if you know what I mean. And I'm starting to think that maybe this is the only way I'll ever be able to break free. So has anyone else had to leave someone they still loved because you finally realized that love wasn't enough? How do you make peace with walking away when your heart still wants to stay? What should I do? Okay, I need you to understand something because I really mean this. Your boyfriend does not care about you. If he cared about you, he wouldn't be working as a street pharmacist. Also, the fact that he's like, oh, I'm just gonna go message another girl and go for a night out, as well as him going cold anytime you're crying, like this guy doesn't care about you at all. And then to top it all off, the guy's going to jail. And in the comments of this post, the original poster's trying to justify it by being like, oh, but he most likely won't get long, maybe a year or two for what the solicitor says. And it's like, dude, why would you want to stay with someone like that? This is a toxic relationship just from the outside looking in. It doesn't sound like there's any love in this relationship, and it sounds like you're the only one holding on. And I bet you more than anything, he probably is already cheating on you. And I'm sorry to say that, but it kind of looks like he might be. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be dumping him and moving on with my life. Because trust me, you could do way better than this guy. My fiance is insistent that we do trust-building exercises where he blindfolds me in public for public vulnerability drills. And I'm honestly so weirded out by this that I don't know if this is normal, and I don't know if I should stay with him any longer. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I'm starting to feel so humiliated. So I've been with my fiance for 3 years, and we've been engaged for 6 months. He's always been into building trust and doing weird exercises from books that he reads or podcasts that he listens to. It started small, like following falling backwards into each other's arms, or taking turns giving up control of the TV for a week. But now it's getting a little bizarre. His newest thing is public vulnerability drills. Basically, he blindfolds me and walks me through public places like Target, the dog park, the farmer's market, etc., while narrating what's going on. I'm supposed to trust his eyes and lose mine, and sometimes he will guide me to smell random fruit or experience vibration by touching speakers in electronics stores. Last weekend, he walked me into a fountain at the mall to test how I would react to unexpected stimuli. And guess what? I got soaked. He then said to me, "Oh, you passed with a B+, and I'm not making this up. He really grades me." I tried to tell him that I didn't enjoy it and that it makes me feel ridiculous, but he got upset and said I clearly have deep-rooted control issues, and this is how we work through them. He also says I shouldn't undermine the sacred space of trust. So truly, what do I even say to that? Is this some therapy thing that I'm not educated enough to understand? Or is this just really weird? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is literally the weirdest thing I've ever heard, because no, this is not normal behavior. To say that I would dump this person the second he tried to blindfold me in public, just so I can go through some public vulnerability drills? Like seriously, he would be out of my life so fast it's not even funny. Like honestly, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And the fact that he's getting pissed off because you're so resistant to it, in my opinion, kind of proves that he's priming you for like an awful relationship, where he is super controlling and demanding of you. Like just look at what he's making you do. He's making you walk around in public in front of other people, blindfolded like in Target or a dog park, or even a farmer's market for God's sake. Like this guy's humiliating you for no reason, and if anything, he's probably seeing how far you'll be pushed until you'll literally do whatever he says. So overall, this sounds like an awful relationship, and by awful, I mean something that could be really detrimental to your health. And this is literally manipulation at its finest. Today it's a fountain that he walks you into, but it makes me question what he's gonna make you do in the future, because this behavior is very unusual and you should not have to deal with this in the slightest. My mom is trying to force me to marry my cousin, and I'm honestly so blown away that I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I was gonna post this on my main account before I came to my senses. This isn't really a throwaway, but more of an account I'll use to share stories of my entitled family, namely my mom. And before you call BS and start joking around saying Sweet Home Alabama, for starters, believe me, I wish this was BS, but unfortunately, it's an actual situation I'm facing. Secondly, we are Dominican, and I don't know if that changes everything. And also, I hate that song. For reference, I'm a 20-year-old male and my cousin is a 19-year-old female, and Spanish was my first language. I have a third cousin in Dominican Republic. They're not well off in that country, and her mom is a little neglectful. And at this point, it feels like my mom cares more about her than me, but whatever. She deserves it. She's a good kid who does well in school and wants to move to the US to go to nursing school. Unfortunately, she can't because she's not a legal citizen. So my mom decided that it would be the best plan for me to go to the Dominican Republic in June or July, and while I'm there, I should marry my third cousin to make her legal. She brought this up a few years ago, but I thought she was joking, but apparently she wasn't. Recently, she brought this plan up again, and she actually is talking about how she already booked flights to the Dominican Republic and all this other crap. What is going on? I'm in a relationship already, and my mom literally told me that she doesn't give an F about my personal life. All she cares about is going to the Dominican Republic and forcing me to marry my cousin. Thankfully, I talked about the plan with my significant other, and they are supportive. Due to the pandemic and not knowing if it's going to get worse, I think it's safe to say that we are not flying out there, but my mom still acts like we're still going. Basically, I marry her, I stay married for a year, and then we divorce amicably, and my mom pockets any money that's made from this if there is any. When I try to downright refuse this was met with screaming, physical anger, and threats to kick me out. I'm afraid to go to any family members because I don't know what's gonna happen to me, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, it's important to note that this story happened 5 years ago, and now 5 years later, the original poster has an update they want to share. Here's what they had to say. So it's been 5 years since I made my previous post, and honestly, I was never planning on updating, and I forgot about the account until I saw this YouTube video and was really sympathizing with the writer. That is, until I realized that I am the writer. The original post is still up on my profile, but I will give a quick summary. My mom has always been awful both physically and mentally towards me, and has been very controlling of my life despite me becoming an adult. Things reached a point that I never thought it would when my mom tried to force me to go to the Dominican Republic to marry my cousin so that we could bring her back to the United States so that she could start nursing school. Well, I logged into this account to see people messaging me for an update and people making up their own theories about what might have happened. Some said that I passed away, and others said that I married the cousin and that I got into legal trouble and all this other stuff. But if I wrote in detail what has happened in the last years, then this post will be a million correctors long, so instead I'm just gonna give you the TLDR. For starters, I broke up with my girlfriend that I was dating in the first story after I found out that she was cheating on me. Also, and this is super important, I never ended up marrying the cousin because I avoided renewing my passport bored. And my mom found another person in the US that she was going to try and force me to marry, which also just so happened to fall through as well. I then ended up summoning the strength to start standing up to my mom, and she kicked me out of the house in the summer of 2021. I then ended up moving in with another family member, and I turned to substances and alcohol to help me cope, and I overdosed in December of 2021 at the age of 22. But thankfully, I survived. Me and my mom reconciled in January of 2022 because of her entering counseling and my overdose. I ended up moving back in with my mother so that she could take care of me while I got better, and she ended up having another freak out and kicked me out again in August of 2021, and I ended up having to move to a different state with a Discord friend because my mom physically attacked me. I left all my possessions and everything I knew and loved behind, and I was utterly miserable in this new state. No money to my name, and I went days at a time without eating, and I even had some really dark thoughts, but I survived, and I started working my butt off and I found a job. I then found another unhealthy vice, and I started my hookup phase in this new state and ended up dating someone who turned out to be the second most toxic woman imaginable. And I'm also an idiot who doesn't seem to be able to learn their lesson, so I moved in with my mother yet again in January of 2023. But this time, things actually seemed to go fairly normal for a while, and this is because my mom realized she could use me for money, and I'd let her because I was a sucker. I started a career and started making money. I broke up with my now long-distance girlfriend, and after the breakup, she accused me of cheating on her, but it turns out she was the one that was cheating on me. I then swore off relationships for good, and I eventually got close to a girl who had the same mindset, and as you can probably guess, we ended up dating. We celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and after yet another freak out by my mom in January of this year, because my girlfriend gave me the reality check to stop letting her use me and my girlfriend made the plans to move in together as of April of 2025. Me and her are now living together, and I am 800 miles away from my mom, and I barely call her. Me and my mom are cordial because I still want to connect with my little sister, but I only call my mom on my terms. And anytime she starts acting entitled to me, I cut her off and I threaten to go no contact. I'm now living a peaceful life that I never thought I'd be living before. I'm living with the love of my life, and I'm planning on proposing to her soon. I'm being flown all over the country thanks to my career, and my partner's family have basically taken me in as one of their own. I want to take this moment to say thank you to everyone who read and replied to my old post. You guys truly helped me put a lot of things in perspective, and it really helped me realize what a messed up situation I was living in. Okay, I honestly cannot imagine being stuck in that kind of situation where my parent is trying to force me to marry my cousin for some weird reason. And yeah, this is one of those weird situations where it's like, no, I'm not going to marry my cousin so they can get citizenship. This is weird. I'm related to them. I don't care if it's just a year. That's way too long. Even a day's too long for your cousin. Like, what the crap is going on? But from the sounds of it, it seems like the original poster is doing really well in life, and honestly, that's the most you can ask out of this. And despite their mom sounding incredibly insane, I'm really glad to see that they're away from them and they're living their best life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My grandma is somehow surprised that I don't want her attention after she literally ignored me for most of my life, which is super ironic considering the fact that she treated me so poorly as a kid. Here's what happened. To give you a little context on the kind of relationship me and my grandmother had, for 20 years she spelled my name wrong. Every card that was ever sent, my name was always spelled wrong on it. On my 21st birthday, she sent me a card that had my name spelled correct, and I, along with my mother, were so shocked that we were wondering if she had actually sent the card. Growing up, my grandma was really close to one of my cousins who we will call Mike for the sake of the story, and I just assumed it was because she and Mike lived close while I only got to see my grandma on holidays or family vacations, which was maybe once or twice a year. So the moment that made things click for me was when I was around 12 years old and we were taking a family vacation. We decided to go to a museum specifically for a Native American exhibit, as my grandma says we are Native American, even though there's literally no evidence of that in the first place. But once we got to the gift shop, my grandmother had bought herself and Mike matching necklaces. I remember feeling very bad and just completely left out. So I asked her if I could get something to match with her as well, and to summarize what she said, she looked at me and went, "Oh, well, it's just a thing with Mike and I. We just really bond over our Native American heritage. You don't know much about it, so it wouldn't make sense to buy you something." And it was at that moment in my head, I was like, oh, so you're just never going to acknowledge me and my feelings. So from then on, I never went out of my way to vie for any of her attention. Cut to several years later, and I'm an adult, and my grandmother is 79 years old. My aunt had planned an all-girls cruise for our family, and the entire time, my grandma kept wanting to join me for things and kept asking me about my plans. And I found it all very weird because she literally showed no interest in my life prior to this, and she was shocked when I didn't want to do anything with her one-on-one. I talked to my mom about this, and she was like, yep, that's her. Her love goes to the highest bidder. I think now that she's really old, she's worried about the lack of connections she's made with family and doesn't want to die alone. But I kind of felt indifferent about the whole thing, sort of like a it sucks to suck mentality, which I do feel guilty about because she is my grandma, but relationships are a two-way street, and my grandmother made no effort and seemed to go out of her way to make me feel bad. I'm not going to ignore her, but I'm also not going to go out of my way to placate her just because she now suddenly feels guilty, especially if that guilt comes from a place of self-interest. Wow, I can't stand that. That's like really toxic in my opinion because there's no reason for her to be like super exclusive towards just Mike. Like all she had to do when you were 12 was be like, oh sure, let's get you a necklace as well. Like I'm willing to bet the necklace was probably not that much. If anything, maybe like what, $10 if that? Like that's all that would have been required to just be like, sure, you're included, why not? So I find it really funny that she's not only excluding you early in life, but now she's trying to be like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna be like really attached to you. So on that end, I absolutely agree with the way you handled this because I would be the exact same way in my opinion. Because as you put it, just because she feels guilty doesn't mean that you have to welcome her back in your life. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like the damage is pretty much already done. My job overnight literally became super strict about our hours that we worked. So I decided to get some petty revenge by quite literally breaking their system. Here's what went down. Okay, so I was a software engineer for a company and out of nowhere, they implemented an electronic control on our work time. Before that, we would work extra on good faith, where for example, if I had to do 2 extra hours on one day, the next day I could get 2 less hours without a problem. But in the new system, I had to clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and if I didn't, I would be considered late and lose the entire first hour, along with me being forced to clock out at 5 with a 1-hour lunch break in between. Now, work laws here in Brazil are different from the ones in the United States and most of the posts around this forum. If the company tracks your work time, they have to pay you extra on anything over 40 hours a week. Sometimes I would get in a bit earlier, like 8:50 in the morning or something like that, and then leave at 5:10 in the evening. But at the end of the first month, I was surprised my extra hours were 0. Now, as a side note, on the previous system, I wouldn't care, but they were the ones that decided to track this. I then decided to do some digging on how the tracking software worked, and I found out that anything less than 15 minutes per check-in was completely ignored. And I'm 99% sure that was against the law, but I could work with that. So from that day on, guess who arrived 16 minutes early every single day? I also came back from lunch 16 minutes early and left 16 minutes later. At the end of the second month, management called me in to explain why I had over 3 times more extra hours than most of the other workers. But I just told them to check their systems. I'm not the one keeping track of that anymore. To my surprise, they actually did pay everything that was owed, and they did not change how the system worked. I kept doing that for another 3 months before changing jobs to a remote one, because that one was starting to become not so fun. Okay, I've worked in systems like this, and the way the original poster handled this is brilliant. If they're gonna be so tight-fisted about that, then guess what? Your system deserves to be broken. Especially for people like the original poster who are just honest workers doing their job. They're getting it done and they're compensating their hours correctly, and it's like, what's the problem here, people? Why should I have to be punished for something someone else is doing? Like, seriously. So I love what the original poster did because these people absolutely deserved it. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for ending a date early after the girl I was on a date with literally tried to hook up with another guy when she thought I wasn't looking? Because right now I'm pretty pissed off and I'm not sure if I made the right decision. Here's how it happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my girl and I have been dating for several months. We have not had the exclusive discussion. However, we both have indicated that this is where we would like things to go. We're going out to enjoy a little nightlife and then back to my place afterwards. And we start with a nice dinner at an upscale restaurant. I pay as usual, which I fully expected to do. After dinner, we had to get drinks at a nice bar with live music. The band plays a few songs, breaks for a few minutes to prepare for the next set, and I take the opportunity to go get us another round and head for the men's restroom. Upon returning, I see my date visiting with another guy, but I personally did not have a problem. While I was waiting for our drinks, I see her giving the guy her phone number. Admittedly, this made me a bit perturbed. I mean, if you're gonna chat up some girl, you can at least buy her the drinks that she's consuming. I return to our table with our drinks, sit down, and ask her if she knows the guy. She then responds by saying, "What guy?" And I said, "The one that you were just chatting with." She then acted a little put off that I had noticed what she had done. After the band's next set, I tell her that I'm ready to head out, and it's then that she acts a bit reluctant about leaving. By the way, it's now about midnight, so it's not too late, but late enough to head out in my opinion. As we exit, she says that she wanted to stay a bit longer, and I tell her that she can stay, but I'm tired and I'm ready to head out. She then cops an attitude and says fine, and gets really angry with me. At this point, I've had enough already, and I request an Uber to drive to her address. Once the Uber arrives, I let her into the car and I tell her to have a nice evening, and I close the door and I just walk off. I then request a separate Uber for myself to take me home to my place. Well, needless to say, she's taken aback, but frankly, I was done when she acted innocent with giving another guy her number on my dime. I've not responded to or read her messages since then, and it's been about 2 days. So for the community on Reddit, was I the jerk for ending the date by not joining her in the ride to her place? place. I will read her messages when I think I've cooled down, but right now, I think I'm done with this girl. As much as I did enjoy her company, I despise lying and talking to other guys while out with me. What should I do? Okay, this is crazy to me. Dude, there's no way I would ever stay with this girl. You mean to tell me that we're on a date, I go to the bathroom, and then I come back and, oh look, she's trying to hook up with another guy? Like, dude, there's no way I would stick with that. I would be kicking her to the curb tomorrow. And I totally get it. You guys are not exclusive or anything like that, but for her to be literally looking for another guy to go out with, all while she's on a date with you on your dime, like that is beyond disrespectful and that is a big red flag. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. My grandparents and my mom are guilt-tripping me for moving out on my own, saying that I'm abandoning my family and that I'm ruining their lives. And now I feel very guilty and I seriously do not know what to do. Here's how it went down. I'm a 24-year-old male and my parents are divorced. My mom was a housewife, she never had a job, never had financial security of her own, and so her dad, my nana, who is the entitled grandparent of this story, took us in, supported us, and paid for my college tuition. They also had us live in his old house, which had to be refurnished. And by the way, the place is still trash. I mean, we don't even have water supply for half the summers. I've expressed my will to move out with my mom and without, mostly without since my mom is also entitled, but that's a separate story. Well, my entitled grandparent crushed every wish of mine. They said to me, "The world is horrible. You don't know that. You're young. You don't know the world like we do. Why do you want to abandon your mom? She sacrificed her life for you. I paid for your college and gave you a house to live in, and this is how you pay me back?" And by the way, all this came up because I wanted to live alone. I wanted to do this for a while, like try to live alone for a year and then come back or something like that. Since, you know, I've never lived alone. It's always been with my mom, and I believe it'd be a nice learning experience. And also, what do they mean my mom ruined her life for me? All she did was get divorced, sit it out, and wait for me to have a job so that there's yet another person who can provide for her. She didn't provide for me mentally or emotionally. I was parentified. And now my entitled grandparents are asking me to pay rent just to live in this old house. And they would even say to me, "Well, if you want the renting experience so bad, we might as well do it," asking me to pay back the college tuition and all this other stuff. And my mom's on their side because I apparently need to learn a lesson in respect, humility, and loyalty. Like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. So I'm packing my stuff and I'm leaving the day I'm home alone, which is absolutely happening because they leave for work and I work remotely. But when they come back, they're going to come back to nothing because I am definitely leaving. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they wanted to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, to start things out, a week ago, I absolutely moved out. And my mom at the time was on her way home, where she clearly came home to an empty house because the calls all started coming in. Well, fast forward to a week now since I've moved out, and since then, my entitled grandparents and everyone else except for my mom were blocked. They realized their calls are unable to reach me, and I received a text message from my grandparents asking me to call them, but I blocked that too. I then called my mom the day I received that text, and I didn't ask about whether my grandparents knew what I've done or anything like that. I just wanted to gauge the situation and see how she's been doing. Well, as you can probably guess, she was bitter and angry, but surprisingly civil. Her responses were screaming, "Well, you think you ruined your life because you had to take care of me, and now I will have to take care of myself, and I will never reach out to you ever again for help. I will handle myself because I don't need your help." And that's a rough summary of what she was shouting at me, which was very hurtful, because I never intended to make her feel like I didn't want to help her out. She has no one but me. Her dad is a tyrant, her husband left her for someone else and took her youngest son with him. She suffered, and I don't want her to anymore. I mean, I never did. I wanted us to flourish, and that's all. I wanted us to be healthy, break some cycles of generational trauma, grow together, make our life good. That's why I took the space, because I didn't like the direction our relationship was going in, and it had shown zero signs of change throughout years of consistent effort and communication. But still, I never intended to abandon her, not help her, and not provide for her. I received my paycheck today, and naturally I sent her money, which she immediately just sent back, and it's been seriously destroying me. I never intended for this. I feel so guilty. I just wanted a little distance in our relationship and a lot of distance from my entitled grandparents. Why am I being punished for it? All the sacrifices and devotion I contributed towards my relationship with my mom and my entitled grandparents and the family entirely seems to have evaporated by my decision to move out. It's really hurtful. Also, I forgot to block my entitled grandparent's son's wife's number, which is my mom's sister-in-law, so I got a few phone calls from that number, accidentally picked it up, said something really quickly, and then hung up and blocked them, because apparently they're pretty insistent to get their hands on me. All of this has been destroying me internally. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know if I've done anything wrong in the first place, and I don't know how to rationalize everything in my head, which is why you find me here writing this post. I haven't been able to schedule a therapy session either, but I did get one the day after I moved. So I'm truly feeling a lot of guilt, and I honestly don't know how to handle it. Okay, honestly, I'm so sorry sorry that you're going through this because moving out is not that big of a deal. Like in my opinion, it's kind of the natural order of things, right? You're 24 years old, you're at that point where you're like, okay, I kind of need some more space, which by the way is totally normal. So for your mom and everyone else to be like, wow, you ruined your life, how dare you? It's like, do they seriously expect you to live with him forever? Like, are you seriously not allowed to move on and like do anything else with your life besides live with your mom? I'm not saying you can't take care of her because obviously you can, but for them to be like, oh no, you have to live with her, and if you do move out, you're ruining your life. So in my opinion, I really don't think you did anything wrong. Sometimes these decisions just kind of suck and it's like, okay, let's see what happens. Because your decision to move out is not some kind of like make or break moment, as I really do think it's a natural thing that eventually was going to happen. An idiotic customer got mad at me for something that another customer did, losing his temper in a way that truly terrified me. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for a bit of reference, this happened about 3 months ago and I'm a self-checkout cashier. So this guy comes up to the self-checkout, scans his stuff, and sees that his items, a pack of 15 grout sponges, is not the right price. And I think to myself, okay, here we go. So I go up to him and I ask him where it was. He says it was in a bin full of these things and that the price listed was lower than what's being shown on the screen. I say to him, okay, can you go get a picture of the item and the label? But this guy says to me, can't you call someone to go check the price? And I respond back by saying, no, I can't. He then annoyedly walks back there and gets the right product. He apparently happened to pick up the only pack of 15 grout sponges in a display full of packs of 3, which is something that is very common because of customers leaving stuff where it shouldn't be. He then comes back and starts complaining about how he shouldn't have to go back there and get the item. He then goes to get a soda or something, and honestly, I can't remember what it was, and at this point, I was scared that the guy was gonna go off on me, and my head cashier walks up to the cash register that he was scanning stuff at and clears it because he was gone for quite a while. Well, eventually, he comes back, gets really pissed off that his cart is empty because he was gone, and he had put his items where many people leave their stuff when they don't want it, and then just starts going off on me and my head cashier who was there at the time about how I should have listened better. But the thing is, he was vague as to what he was gonna do with the items, and then finally he finishes his stupid rant. Now at this point, I'm scared out of my mind and honestly pissed off that I couldn't do anything about it, and my head cashier says that she was about to do something like kick him out, but he finishes berating me before she could finally get the chance. So yeah, I hope that guy never shows up in my store again because I really do not want to deal with him. Oh man, I relate to this so hard because I've dealt with customers in the past who are so stupid, and the guy you're talking about in this story completely fits the bill. Like, I don't even care that he picked up like the wrong sponges he was trying to buy. Like, clearly the things you were selling was meant for like, I don't know, a 3-pack instead of a 15-pack. So for him to be like, oh, this is ridiculous, I can't believe you guys don't have it correctly. It's like, dude, I'm not responsible for someone putting something somewhere it's not supposed to be. Like, that's not my fault. So yes, I completely understand where you're coming from. I know how stressful it is dealing with angry customers like that, especially when they're rude in the way that this jerk was. An entitled boomer almost drowns because he ignored no swimming signs and would rather die in the water than be rescued by a woman. Here's what happened. To start things out, I'm an ocean rescue lifeguard on a popular Florida beach. Yesterday, we had really strong currents and a riptide, so we had to put up a red flag and a no swimming signs all along the shoreline. Most people listened, but one man, a boomer in a Speedo that left little to the imagination, did not. He went straight into the water. I immediately got into the water on my jet ski as I didn't want to accidentally be pulled out and asked him to get out, but he refused, and he only continued to swim deeper. He was then pulled underwater by a large wave like I had just warned would happen, and he couldn't get himself back up. So I immediately got into rescue mode, trying to get him to grab onto my rescue tube. Well, the man didn't grab on, still being pummeled by waves. My partner, who I share a stand with, took to his jet ski and headed over. Together, we were able to pull him above the water without drowning, and he grabbed onto the rescue float, luckily still conscious. We pulled him in and helped him onto my jet ski, and it was then that he began berating us that he was totally fine and didn't need help. Both of us were holding back anger as we tried to get him to hang on to me so we could drive him back to the shore. Once we got back, a crowd gathered to see what had happened, and he continued yelling at us, saying that a real man doesn't need any help, especially not from a female, and that we made a fool of him in front of the entire beach. And it's crazy how ungrateful someone like this can be. I saved his life, and he had to go on some stupid sexist rant about me. On top of that, we also had a stinging marine life warning yesterday, meaning that we had to put up a purple flag. There were man-of-wars and jellyfish in the water, which added to our decision to close the beach for swimming. So the boomer was very lucky that he didn't get stung by anything. Now, in case someone's wondering, no, there are no fines for people who ignored no swimming signs in the state of Florida. Florida's lifeguarding system is so screwed up that a few years back, a lifeguard from a town north of here got fired for rescuing someone that was drowning outside of his unmarked observation perimeter. Apparently, that area uses private lifeguard companies. companies. Luckily for me, I work for the city and I can't be fired for stupidity like that. Also, my jet ski has water damage. I discovered this while doing an inspection this morning. It's likely that riding out in that rip current caused some damage and filled the inside with water. Again, there's no fines to pay for this and it's gonna be on the city's dime, but it all really sucks because all of this is to be blamed on this boomer. Man, it is crazy to me that you would not only ignore a lifeguard, but also be stubborn from having your life saved all because a woman is rescuing you. Like, that's the definition of stupid. You would rather try to look cool and be a man in front of everybody than, I don't know, have your life saved. But either way, good for you for staying professional because truly, I don't think I could do that if my life depended on it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A spoiled rotten child makes my life at a daycare absolutely miserable, as his poor behavior is directly connected to his parents who refuse to tell him no, which truly made my life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so recently I quit my job at a daycare which I will call Happy Daycare. I had been there for almost 2 years, but due to a lot of other people quitting and being forced to participate in mandatory meetings along with other things, I decided to quit. This child, while not at the daycare anymore, added undue stress not just to me, but to everyone. I'm gonna call this kid Terror. And I know that's mean, but trust me when I say that it completely suits him. So when everyone graduated to their new classes, Terror didn't graduate right away because he was still potty training despite being 3 years old. Now, both of his parents worked, but it seemed like they didn't even try to potty train on the weekends. They just asked why it hadn't been done yet. Well, we can't start potty training unless the kids are also doing it at home. If they're not potty training at home, then the lessons won't be effective. So it took him about 2 months to move upstairs. However, it seemed like the lesson didn't stick. One of my former coworkers, who I will call Lily, was upstairs in the classroom, which is the very one that Terror was in. Upstairs, they have iPads, and the rule is that you can only be on the iPad for 15 minutes. Well, one day, Lily starts smelling poop. She thinks that maybe someone had passed gas, but then she realized that Terror has pooped on the tablets. Instead of getting up and going to the bathroom, Terror decides to poop his pants and sit on his own feces, which is absolutely disgusting. So, to avoid a repeat of that, Lily told me the story and said Terror could not be on the iPad for the rest of the day. So then he tattles to his mom, who then tattles to our boss, who was not helpful in this situation. The mom also got angry that we gave her Terror's poopy clothing. We legally cannot throw away children's clothing unless the parents say it's okay, and trust me, some parents get pissed if you throw away any clothing, even if it's ruined. One time, I had to help change Terror into new clothing because he had another accident in his underwear. He was in the bathroom that's in the classroom, and I went to grab his clothing, but when I came back, I find out that he's peed on the floor right next to the toilet. Well, his parents didn't see what the big deal was, and they were just once again angry that we sent him home with dirty clothing. I once again had to explain that we cannot throw away dirty clothing without proper consent or we get in trouble. Now, I was not a head teacher, I was just a support teacher, meaning that I would go into any classroom I was told to go in and help out the teachers with whatever they needed. I usually started my day by doing bathroom breaks, seeing if any teacher in any classrooms needed it. So while I wasn't always with Terror, I knew how bad he could be. Everyone knew how bad he could be. If he didn't get his way, he would hit people, he would kick people, and throw a tantrum. He would spit or even try to bite us. He once kicked another child in the head for no reason, and we had to call her mother just in case the child had a concussion. Needless to say, that mother wasn't happy. Now, Terror's parents were no help. They either didn't believe us or they thought we were lying about their kid. And I think the mom was the worst. When a kid got hurt or if a kid did something to a classmate, we had to write them up. Terror would sometimes have multiple reports in one day. I think one time he had 3. I'd also find him sitting up front with the main ladies in charge and not in class. Again, the mom just doesn't seem to think that it's a big deal. And she also sometimes thought the teachers were making things worse. I literally heard her say once, "I think they're making it worse for him." But guys, truly, they tried everything with this kid. We had not only 1 but 2 therapists come into Happy Daycare to help this kid, and he only got worse. He got so bad that my bosses would try to get one of the support teachers to be one-on-one with him. When she asked me, I straight away said absolutely not. And later, Lily told me my boss tried the same on her. The teachers in Terror's room were also at their wits' end because they couldn't just focus on one kid. They had around 12 other children to look after. Terror also didn't just attack kids, he attacked the teachers too. He hit teachers multiple times and once tried to pinch me when I told him no. He also lost a lot of privileges due to repeated bad behavior. For example, he was no longer allowed to be the line leader because he got into the hallway and took off by himself. And if you've worked in a daycare, that's a big no-no and a safety hazard. But again, the mother thinks her child is a precious angel. She even complained that the other kids weren't playing with Terror and was upset said that the teachers weren't doing anything about it. Now, kids are not stupid, and a lot of Tara's classmates were just tired of dealing with him. I'm also not a big fan on forcing kids to play together, and instead, try to get kids to understand that just because a friend doesn't want to play now doesn't mean that they won't play with you later. I'm also not going to force any kids to play with the class bully who's hurt them before. But no matter what we did, the parents were no help, and they seemed to think that the people at Happy Daycare were the bad guys. However, there is some happy news. Tara left the daycare. His parents found him a new daycare, but he didn't even finish his final week at Happy Daycare. Nope, he had another fit and someone had to be one-on-one with him. My old coworker overheard them calling his mom saying, "You need to come get him now." Despite everything, I feel bad for Tara because his parents just won't parent him. They would excuse everything that he did and get mad at us for doing our jobs. I knew he was going to either leave Happy Daycare or be kicked out because nothing was working. So either way, so long Tara, because I wish you the absolute best of luck. Okay, I've got to be completely honest, this made me incredibly frustrated reading through this. Like, I seriously could never put up with that if I was in the original poster shoes. I think I would lose my mind dealing with this, and not just for the reason of like dealing with this bratty child, but also putting up with those parents. Like, those parents absolutely suck. And I think you know the type of situation I'm talking about here, where it's like, oh yeah, this kid's never been told no, and now you have to deal with it. Like, that's obnoxious. I could never put up with that. So good for the original poster and their coworkers, because you are much stronger than I am, because this sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. My best friend is marrying a stranger that she's known for literally 3 weeks, and now I am incredibly worried and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so me and my best friend have been best friends for nearly 29 years. We're both 37 years old and we've been best friends since we were 8 years old. We were neighbors during childhood, so we've gone through everything together. Childhood, high school, parties, mistakes, college, young marriages, surprise pregnancies, and lots of life. We also went through divorces together. For context, her divorce was due to infidelity on her ex-husband's part, with mine being due to my ex-husband's alcoholism. And it was just a coincidence that it was within a year of each other. This led to a lot of crying together and a lot of healing together, and we re-entered the dating world around the same time. The next couple of years were full of a lot of tough lessons about relationships and partnerships and dating and love. This was stuff we spoke about constantly and had learned a lot of great important lessons. She met a boy and dated him for a year, and he wasn't the one and nobody loved him, but we let her work through it. Definitely had some serious conversations, but trusted her to make the right choice for herself. She does finally break up with him and is in a very peaceful place. And within a week, she goes on a first date with a new guy, which is a setup through mutual friends. She felt like it was too soon, but also wanted to just get back out there. Well, they've been dating for maybe 5 weeks and they're now engaged to be married in the summer. In total, they will have been together approximately 3 months before they're fully married. I've only met him once. He does seem by all accounts to be a good man, but this just feels insanely fast and insanely irresponsible. They both have 2 children, each from their prior marriages, ranging in ages from 9 to 14. I genuinely don't understand what the rush is. The only context I can provide is that they both leaned heavily into their Christian faith post-divorce, and I think that maybe accelerated the timeline for different reasons. If you ask them why they're moving by so fast, they will just say that they're in love. So how do I strike a balance between honesty and tough love and support from my best friend? Like, seriously, what do I say? Because right now I don't know what to do. Dude, this is crazy. Like, you're completely right, first off, because this is way too fast. And don't get me wrong, sometimes this is like a match made in heaven and like it just kind of works out in some kind of way, but I just don't know if that's going to be the case for this one. It seems like your friend is just really lonely and things went wrong really fast, so she's trying to like latch on to the first person that loves her, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. I just don't think that's a good idea. So unfortunately, at the end of the day, it really does come down to her own decisions, and I think you just be as supportive as possible. I know that's what I would do if I was in your shoes, because this really does sound tricky, and I seriously don't blame you for being concerned. Am I the jerk for cutting off the Wi-Fi every night at 11 o'clock while my cousin stays with us, all because she is literally keeping me up all night, disturbing my sleep and ruining my grades at university? Because right now my parents are saying that I'm in the wrong, and honestly I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male engineering student living with my parents in Lebanon. Finals are in a week, so my nights are mostly spent memorizing formulas and solving circuits. Last month, my 17-year-old cousin, who we will call Laura, asked if she could crash in our guest bedroom for a few weeks while she did a short internship in a close-by city that's just down from our village. My parents said yes, which is no problem because I like Laura, but the problem started on her second night. Around midnight, I heard loud laughter and TV noises coming from the living room. Laura was playing with her friends online until 1 o'clock in the morning, and this happened almost 3 nights in a row, even though I complained to her multiple times as respectfully as I could. After 3 nights of this, I was exhausted. I harshly confronted her and she apologized, but guess what? The next night it happened again. again, albeit only until midnight, but it was a bit lower. My grades are hanging on by a thread, so I took a bigger approach and I shut down the Wi-Fi at 11 o'clock every night, and I turned it back on when I woke up the next morning at around 7. My parents don't mind since they're more TV people and they go to sleep early as it is, but this is where all the chaos really began. Laura lost connection mid-game the first night I did this, and she came to me furious. She said I was acting like an old landlord ruining her only free time. My parents think I overreacted, and they say Laura's just enjoying her time with us and the stay is temporary. They want me to turn the internet back on and ignore her instead for the sake of family. The main router is in my room, so most control is mine, but I have to listen to my parents in the end. So seriously, am I the jerk for doing this? I feel bad because Laura's internship is only about 2 more weeks, and yes, I didn't warn her about turning off the Wi-Fi. On the other hand, I'm trying for a scholarship, and I literally can't focus or go to sleep with the late night noise. Now, fast forward and it's 9 o'clock p.m. right now, and I'm getting ready to go to bed in a couple of hours, and she's already in our living room playing PlayStation on the TV. I still don't know if I should cut it off again tonight, because at this point, it's like a battle of wits. On one hand, my parents pay for the Wi-Fi, and she is a guest, so I guess we should be accommodating her, but I really tried, and I mentioned that this was a problem so much. What should I do? Okay, this is so disrespectful on so many levels. Like, seriously, Laura sucks. Like, think about it for a second. She's a guest in your house, and she's staying up until midnight, disturbing you and pretty much everybody else in the house. Like, I don't know about you, but that's not the way a guest should be acting in anybody's house that isn't their own. I know if I was staying with family members, I would be on my best behavior. I wouldn't be sitting there being like, oh yeah, you're disturbing my only free time. By the way, I'm gonna keep everybody up until 1 in the morning. See ya. It's like, dude, you've got stuff to do. You can't just be staying up all night because of her. So you know what? You're not the jerk. I don't think you did anything wrong, because I know if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done something similar. My boyfriend's mom refuses to get a job and relies on my boyfriend for literally everything. And right now, I feel like I'm at my wit's end, as I seriously just cannot handle this any longer. Here's what's going on. I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years, and during that entire 2 years, his mom hasn't been working. She sits in her room all day and does nothing. Literally, she's home 24/7. My boyfriend also has 3 other siblings. 2 of them are adults, and 1 of them is only 14. The mom got cheated on by the dad when I first started seeing my boyfriend, and ever since then, she just waits around secretly, hoping for the dad to come back into her life. She goes to therapy and takes antidepressants, and I understand that mental health is a struggle, but I really can't help but be so frustrated over the situation. My boyfriend and his older sister take care of all of the bills. She doesn't even help clean or cook. They do everything around the house. My boyfriend and I eventually want to have our own place, but she refuses to get a job and help out with the finances. Every time my boyfriend tries to bring it up to her about how he's financially struggling at this point and exhausted of having to play parent to his own mother, she just cries and guilt trips him. It seriously pisses me off because recently they had to give up her brand new car because my boyfriend was struggling to take care of everything. But the mom says, no, I want the car. Can you just please pay for it? And it's like, can you get a freaking job and pay for it yourself? She expects him to play father around the house since their actual father left. And it's really upsetting having to watch my boyfriend struggle and become depressed, all due to this garbage while she just selfishly watches. What should I do? Man, if there's ever been a case of someone like having some kind of justification for moving out on their own, this would absolutely be it. Because you see it for exactly what it is, and obviously your boyfriend sees it too, but this is his mother we're talking about. She's someone that he obviously can't just walk out on, so it's very tricky. Like, this really sucks overall, especially when you consider the fact that she is quite literally using him. And that really sucks, considering the fact that you guys are struggling and just trying to live on your own. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover a coworker who literally is a messy person and never does his job? Because right now I'm being guilt tripped hard by my boss, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work as a line cook in a very busy, high volume kitchen. The team is small, and when one person slacks, it affects the whole line. There's this one guy who we will call Jake, who has 2 more years of seniority over me. Technically he's been here longer, but I've got more outside cooking experience than he does. I've worked in various kitchens, everything from fast casual to fine dining, so I know my way around a kitchen and I have a solid work ethic. Jake, on the other hand, tends to coast. He's a slow cook, makes basic mistakes, and leaves his station a mess. Dirty pans at the sink, ingredients uncovered, and prep half done. We've tried giving him feedback, but he either ignores it or just brushes it off. On top of that, Jake has this habit of leaving early almost every single shift. He claims he's done his part, but it's usually because he says he has a headache. Now, I'm not saying that he fakes it, but it's becoming a regular excuse. Sometimes he leaves 30 minutes early, sometimes an hour, and it always leaves the rest of us scrambling to pick up his work. His station is always left in disarray, and there's always stuff left unfinished. At first, I would pick up the slack to keep the kitchen kitchen running smoothly, but after a while, I stopped. I told my chef and shift lead that I'm not covering for Jake anymore. If he leaves early because of a headache, that is his problem and not mine. Last Friday, we got slammed. Jake finished a round of tickets, looked at the clock, and said he had a headache and then he dipped out, as he literally left early like he usually does. His station was left in a mess with dirty pans and prep undone, as well as nothing stocked for the next shift. But I just stayed on my station and I didn't touch his stuff. After service, the chef pulled me aside and said that I should have just done what needed to be done for the team. But I told him straight up, I'm not going to keep cleaning up after Jake, especially when he leaves early all the time, and when I have more experience than him. His seniority doesn't change the fact that he's creating more work for the rest of us. Now, a few of the crew are saying I should have just sucked it up and kept the team running, while others agree with me that Jake needs to take responsibility for his own mess. Now, it's important to note that he does have FMLA for this, but he uses it way too often. So seriously, am I the jerk for not covering for someone who leaves early all because of a headache, who then makes a mess and doesn't pull his weight? Because at this point, I'm exhausted and I'm tired of dealing with it. Okay, I really love the fact that you're not doing it because, my God, you should have no reason to do it. Like, seriously, this guy's a complete moron. If he has a headache and he's not feeling well and he's got FMLA for that, then sure, go ahead and go home. But the least you could do is clean up your stupid station, bro. Like, what are you doing? You're just leaving that mess for everybody. Like, that is so inconsiderate. And the fact that the chef is pulling you aside and trying to be like, you should have been a team player, completely shows that he doesn't actually care about the stuff being dirty or that Jake's leaving it behind, but instead is trying to like boss you around in some kind of way. But it's like, dude, you're not the one that messed up the place. Instead, the chef should be going to Jake and being like, hey man, like clean up your crap. Be a team player for once. Like, come on, you're gonna leave early, sure, but like clean up at least. I don't know, this just seems really backwards to me. Like, what is the chef doing? How could anybody be on Jake's side in this situation? So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because I know for a fact if that was me, I would be incredibly pissed off. Am I the jerk for declining a late invitation to a wedding after I literally was only thought of after other people couldn't show up? Because right now I'm worried that I might have ruined some relationships at my job, and I'm now honestly not sure what to do moving forward. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my coworker, who is also my boss's son, is getting married in July. Months ago, at around October or November, several of my other coworkers already got hand-delivered invitations to the wedding. During this initial period, I was admittedly a little hurt not to be included, though I tried to remain professional and keep it to myself. It really stung, especially hearing those included chatter about wedding talk openly around the office in front of me, knowing that I wasn't included. Well, today I got an invitation. I was extremely surprised and a little confused since I thought I wasn't invited. I did initially stutter a little and I asked something like, oh, well, why now? Because I was completely caught off guard. And he, also kind of clumsily, explained that they invited close friends and family first, and they had to see who couldn't come before they invited others. It was an awkward interaction. I didn't even know sending out invites in stages was a thing that people did. I mean, I thought they all went out at the exact same time. In a moment of deliberation, I, in a way I felt was gracious, kindly and softly declined the invitation. I thanked him for thinking of me and told him I appreciated the invite, but regretted that I would not be able to make it. I then handed back the invitation because I truly was not sure what to do with it, and that was that. Now, my internal thought process was that I've always been taught not to accept a late invitation, because why attend a party or gathering you were only invited to as an afterthought? Also, he specifically told me I got an invitation because someone else couldn't make it. I also felt a little humiliated in the moment, because not only was I a second string invite, but my coworkers who were invited months ago would know that I'm a second string. As a result of this, everyone is now acting a little cold towards me, including my boss, and I'm wondering if I'm the jerk here. I think I might be the jerk because I handed the invitation back and that felt really awkward, and because it might seem like my decline was coming from a place of resentment and bitterness about not being included in the first wave. I can see how it might be interpreted that way, though I think it was coming from a place of trying to protect my own self-worth. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I'm honestly at a loss. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this really is the way I would react as well. I'm a big believer of the idea that if I'm not invited, then I'm not going to show up, especially if I'm invited late to something. Like, are you kidding me right now? And this situation is no different. So no, I'm going to make a firm stance and say you're not the jerk here. Maybe the whole like handing back the invitation part was just a little bit too awkward for them, and that's why they're being cold to you, but I think the message is still the same. If they wanted you to be there, then they should have invited you in the first place. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.